we go. Oops. Oh, I forgot. Oopsie. Oopsie, I forgot. Let me turn this way, I think. Wait, which way? Hello. Is it me you're looking for? I don't know if you can even hear me. There we go. I can hear me now. Okay, that's a little better.
Good morning. It's great to stay up late. Good morning. Good morning to you. Hi, easily distracted. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning to you. I hope everyone's having a good day today. I feel a little better. Yesterday was not, I was in a funk. I was in a decided funk the entire day. And I don't think it's totally shook, but I did shake some of it. So, yeah. I learned some stuff about someone who cavorts with some of the stalking community, and I learned more about their recent past, and I have a different perspective given the pain. Excellent, easily. Highly recommend. I'm sorry. I have nights like that too once in a while. I'm really sorry about that. I hope you're able to nap later too to kind of regenerate. So it's not that I'm not still disgusted and upset by the activities of the people around this person. Don't get me wrong. Oh, and their actions. But it does soften my disregard. Or it just puts it in perspective, I guess. That it might not be about me. Gotta be ready for tonight. That's tomorrow. Wait, tonight? What's happening tonight? Today's Wednesday, right? Tomorrow's the debate. If that's what you mean. It may not be what you mean. My world revolves around political events. That does not mean that everyone else's does. And in fact, it usually doesn't mean that. It usually means that those folks have much more full lives. So I'm envious more than anything else. Twitter is in meltdown as thousands of transphobic and bigoted accounts have been suspended. And big hate accounts have lost thousands of followers. Really? Really? Hi, GP. Good morning, GP. I think that's a wonderful development. Well, you know, sometimes chickens come home to roost. Not always. And not all chickens. Some chickens don't come home to roost. Can you imagine? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I have a Goonies shirt on. I got it at a thrift shop. It was in great shape. Goonies. Goonies for life. Tell more, I got my go back. Yeah, that's great, GP. Fuck, man. It's about fucking time. Any victory is a victory as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? Like any victory over the hatred that pervades Elmo's titscape is admirable. It's good. I'm glad to hear that. I need to smile more. I know that's not what you're supposed to say to people, but And I don't, and I hate it. But I do need to smile more. I think it really helps. Anyway, so yeah, yesterday was not a good day. But it wasn't, there's other people that didn't have good days either. So, but to finish up the thought I was having about this person that I learned more about last night, they were engaged at the moment in a very cruel activity. And that was stunning. It was stunning to see the cruelty that this person was involved in. It was typical of what the people around her engage in. And I don't know, it gave me pause. It gave me pause hearing about the background that this person might be acting out of a lot of pain and loss. A lot of pain and loss. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody responds to pain and loss in the same ways. And it doesn't make it right. But it does explain a little bit more. And it makes me feel a little more pity. So that's something that I can do. The turfs are furious. Fantastic. I love it. Can we turn tides? Can we turn tides on social media platforms? I refuse to believe that there's as many turfs in the world as there are on Twitter. Does that make sense? I feel like the concentration is higher on the population of Twitter than it might be on the earth. I think so. I'm pretty sure. Hi, Julie. Good morning. How are you? Yeah, it's better. I feel better today. I mean, and again, perspective is really helpful. Perspective is super helpful. And reminder, none of us are perfect. In fact, my entire show is built around the fact that I am a very flawed human being. So I am ready with sincere apologies when necessary, because I typically am learning something in that case. So anyway, all to say, I feel a little bit better today. And not quite as grumpy. Not quite as grumpy. I did wake up at 5 a.m., which was great because it gave me a chance to do everything, get the cat settled, make the coffee, do a little dish action. It gave me time to I just love the morning. I love early morning. I think it's one of the most beautiful times. So peaceful. So lovely. Yeah, I really love it. So quiet. It's quiet. I know it's not as early for some of you, and for some of you, GP, it's the middle of the day, or night, or something, or midnight. I don't know. It's very late or very early. I wasn't sure what was happening earlier, though. I thought it might be transphobia, though I was thinking, Pink Flamingo. There are a few hundred turfs with 17 sock accounts, and they're all on X. Right? They really definitely seem to be on X. 11:40 p.m. So I was very close. Very close. I did think I was completely wrong, though, about the midnight thing. So. But I knew it was close to bedtime. All right, I'll keep it both early morning and bedtime, comfort noise level, right? Oh my gosh. Yeah, so there's so much. I mean, it just feels like, and I know you all feel this too, on the social media landscape, it just feels like a constant battle sometimes to kind of maintain your own, sense of wonder about the universe. GP's in Australia. He's down under. One of the longest OG loungers, one of the original spaces. GP's been here since the jump. Since 2021. It's fucking awesome. We need badges or something, right? We need ribbons. I want ribbons. Can we get ribbons? My sleep is way out of whack. I stay awake. I know, mine has been not great. That's interesting. I hope you're able to get to a schedule you want to get to. Yeah, so that's great. Oh my gosh. Coffee tastes good this morning. I hope you're having whatever beverage you want to have, or maybe you're just kind of snuggling in bed, but I hope you're able to like create some comfort in the moment. Let's see, let me make sure I've got some shit pulled up. You know, there is a hearing this morning. There's a hearing on the Chinese Communist Party. And, shit, that's not what I wanted. I'm not sure I care about Julian Assange is whatchamacallit. Oh, William Ruto is holding a press conference.
That would make it possible.
Oh, he's speaking in English. Fantastic.
To have a health insurance.
Hold on, everybody. I'm coming.
By the government of Kenya. And to also operationalize the chronic illness fund that would make it possible for those who suffer from cancer, diabetes, hypertension, to be able to go to hospital, be treated, and go home without being asked for any money. We also had planned to put in money for our coffee farmers to retire the heavy debts that are bedeviling our coffee farmers. We also had allocated money for our sugarcane farmers to make sure that our sugarcane farmers get out of the debts that they're in. We had also committed to our milk farmers 2 billion shillings to make sure that every farmer is paid a minimum of 50 shillings per litre to make sure that these farmers, very hard-working citizens of our nation, get a fair return for their hard work and for feeding our nation. And that is why I commend these members of parliament for agreeing with us that all the priority areas I have mentioned were the right priorities to be funded. And by so doing, they supported the proposal to incorporate also the views of the people. These members of parliament came back to us after they went to listen to the people of Kenya. And they came back and reduced the budget on their own by 146 billion shillings. Notwithstanding all these concessions, it has become evident that members of the public still insist on the need for us to make more concessions. And because I run a government, but I also lead people, and the people have spoken, I am grateful to all the members of the National Assembly who voted yesterday affirmatively for the Finance Bill 2024 as amended on the floor of the House to incorporate the views generated through public participation. And following the passage of the bill, the country witnessed widespread expression of dissatisfaction with the bill as passed, regrettably resulting in the loss of life, destruction of property, and disintegration of constitutional institutions. On my own behalf, and on behalf of these members and many other Kenyans, I send my condolences to the families of those who lost their loved ones in this very unfortunate manner. Consequently, having reflected on the continuing conversation around the content of the Finance Bill 2024, and listening keenly to the people of Kenya who have said loudly that they want nothing to do with this Finance Bill 2024, I concede, and therefore I will not sign the 2024 Finance Bill, and it shall subsequently be withdrawn, and I have agreed with these members that that becomes our collective position. Accordingly, there is need for us as a nation to pick up from here and go into the future. And I am therefore proposing that because we have gotten rid of the Finance Bill 2024, it is necessary for us to have a conversation as a nation going forward. How do we manage the affairs of the country together? How do we manage our debt situation together? How do we work on the budget with the deficits that now exist together? And as I committed last Sunday, I will be proposing an engagement with the young people of our nation. Our sons and daughters.
This is the Kenyan president giving a news conference. He withdrew the tax increase bill that caused the riots.
Listen to their views, listen to their proposals, their ideas, their concerns, and what they think we should do better as we go forward. I am also recommending a multi-sectoral, bipartisan, multi-stakeholder engagement from civil society, religious organizations, professional bodies, for us as a nation to speak to the future of our country, again, together. And this will be on matters that are contained in the bill and matters that the people of Kenya have
New
canvassed
shirt.
in the
Good
conversation
morning, Pep.
that has been going on. In this regard as well, I am directing for immediate further austerity measures to reduce expenditure, starting with the Office of the President, the entire presidency, and extending to the entire executive arm of government. Operational expenditure in the presidency be reduced to remove allocations for the confidential fort, reduce travel, hospitality, purchase of motor vehicles, renovations, and other expenditures. This will cover the entire presidency and also the executive arm of government. I also propose that equally, Parliament, the judiciary, and county governments, working with the National Treasury, also undertake budget cuts and austerity to ensure that we do live within our means, respecting the very loud message that is coming from the people of Kenya. And let me confirm that I have discussed with many stakeholders. I will be meeting some of them shortly after this meeting on charting a way forward that makes sure that we carry the whole nation in this very important journey as we go into the future.
I don't know much about this president.
As a country. Let me also confirm that
what an interesting speech.
The loud message on dealing firmly, decisively, and expeditiously with corruption is a matter that we have discussed and we have agreed that it will take the front banner as we go into the future. We will continue to do this and carry out this very important conversation. And I want to remind us that we should proceed within the foundational principles upon which our nation is founded, namely constitutionalism, adherence to the rule of law, and respect for constitutional institutions. We must continue to operate within the parameters of the law. I thank you. I will take a few questions, 3 questions to be specific.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And the first question will start with Elizabeth Mutuku from TV47.
Good evening. My question is on young leaders from the Gen Z generation who were abducted yesterday and the day before yesterday. What happens to that? Second, there were young people who were killed during the demonstrations. What do you speak of that as the head of state? Thirdly, how do we move forward on the budget cuts, especially now that you've said that we're going to have austerity measures, yes, but how then do we secure development?
Thank you very much.
He basically, this is the Kenyan president giving a speech.
So,
He basically just gave a speech that answered the questions, most of them, not all.
young people, 6 to be exact, 6 people yesterday lost their lives. Very unfortunately, they shouldn't have lost their lives. And I have said it is a very unfortunate situation. I wish that would not have happened. And there is a framework that...
This is the Kenyan president giving a news conference. He withdrew the tax increase bill, and he's doing austerity measures in the executive branch of his government.
I did promise the country
and meeting with young leaders.
There will be no extrajudicial killings going forward. And ever since I came into office, there is not one incident of extrajudicial killing. What you said about abduction are statements that were attributed to some of our civil society groups, but all the people they mentioned have since been found in police custody, and those that were already processed were already released. On the matter of development that you have said, minus the finance bill, it means that some of the development programs amounting to 200 billion shillings, we will have to cut down, to delay them. We will have to wait some of them for next year. We will try it again. We will try next year to find some money. Some of them we will have to cancel because that's the nature of things. And it is because the people of Kenya have spoken loudly that they want a leaner budget for us as a country. Question number 2.
We'll take the next question from Bisara.
I'm going to move to a hearing. I don't know if is it the Chinese Communist Party one, gal? Because that's one I had teed up.
Matumaini ya vijana Gen Z na baadhi ya Wakenya kwa wabunge yamepungua kabisa ama hata yamepotea. Kwa hivyo kama tunachukua hatua gani kuhakikisha kwamba tunawahusisha vijana katika maamuzi muhimu hasa katika masuala ambayo yanalenga taifa ama ujenzi wa taifa? Swali lingine, je, utahakikisha vipi uwazi katika mpango wako wa kupunguza matumizi serikalini? Maana umesema kwamba kuna austerity measures. Je, kutakuwa na transparency? Na swali la mwisho, ningependa kujua kama pengine kutakuwa na fidia kwa wale ambao walifariki au kwa familia kwa wale ambao walifariki hapo jana, na je, serikali itasimamia malipo ya wale ambao kwa hospitalini hivi sasa wanapokea matibabu kutokana na majeraha waliyopata hapo jana? Asante.
Thank you very much. About 214 Kenyans were involved in various skirmishes, and many of them
I have that one teed up
went to
too.
hospital. 95 of them were treated and released. Some of them, I think one is still in ICU, and others, I think 14.
It hasn't started yet.
Are still in hospital, but
I have it.
majority of
I have it
them
ready to go.
were treated and released yesterday.
He was Uhuru Kenyatta's vice president. Oh, I did not know that, Snowden. I don't know much about him. I'm now interested to learn more.
There will be a mechanism of how they will be.
He's given a good speech, so I'm curious. I don't know.
Whom you have said, how do we listen to them? Let me say the following. Number one, I did make a very
Any SCOTUS rulings? Let me check. Hold on.
determined
Let me
program
check.
to create opportunities for young people to work. It was in our manifesto. It is in my plan.
SCOTUS.
As I talk to you, 3 of the programs are going on. The housing program today has 160,000 young people working as engineers, as architects, as quantity surveyors, plumbers, masons, carpenters, artisans, transporters, accountants. We have 160,000
Oops, sorry.
young people working.
Sorry.
Because I did take
Sorry,
the
Mr.
decision
President.
that if we don't deal with millions of young people
I don't like that,
out
oomph.
of school, out of college,
Yeah. What time is it?
who have certificates
Oh, it is.
and they don't have
Okay.
jobs,
We will
they
go.
soon
Hold on.
become a very big challenge.
Bear
for us
with
as a
me.
country
Bear
as
with
we are witnessing at the
me.
moment.
Wait, which one do I want to
All
go
the
to?
young people you see, they're looking for opportunity. They're looking for
No.
jobs. And that is why our housing program, once it is
Sorry, Mr. President. Okay. Hold on to your love. Don't give up on your love. Don't give up on my love, mister. Don't. You're going to break my heart. Pop out. Pop out. We will be live blogging. I don't know where the newer ones are. 653, 653, 653. Jesus Christ, people. 654. Okay. So it's the bottom. Ah! We have the first opinion. Murphy v. Missouri by Justice Barrett. What's Murphy v. Missouri? Anybody know? Anybody? 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 Yeah. 6-3 Alito dissenting, joined by Thomas and Gorsuch. Whoopee, that doesn't sound very good. La 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 la. Oh, come on. Who can read that? Nobody. La 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 la. Come on. Come on, can you just summarize it? Isn't that your job? Come on now. Jamie Raskin is the one I sent, but watch whatever you had planned. No, I had both of them. I had both of them teed up. I don't know. Murphy v. Missouri. Murphy v. Missouri. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. His wife, Marge Kenyatta, is one of my mom's best friends. Oh my gosh, Snowden. Well, he gave an amazing speech. I don't know. It sounded real nice. It was kind of fucking brave, frankly. So, I'm sorry. I should go ahead and do this. Good morning, Lee. Good morning, Lee. Wait, okay, so what is it? Murphy v. Missouri. Hold on, let me just... Murphy v. Missouri. Meow, meow. A case in which the court must decide if the government's request to large social media companies that they take steps to prevent the what? The plaintiffs argue that the defendants used public statements and threats of regulatory action, such as reforming Section 230, to induce social media platforms to suppress content, thereby violating the plaintiffs' First Amendment rights. This is the case about media jawboning, the government's communications with social media companies during the 2020 election season and COVID-19 pandemic. The court holds that the challengers, 2 states and 5 social media users, do not have standing. Meow, 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 meow. All that for no standing? All that for no standing? Oh, God, here we go. It's little Jimmy Comer. That's the one I had lined up. Hold on just a minute. Now I can, oh, here's that one. That one hasn't, oh, it has started. Has it? No, it hasn't started. Okay, the COVID one hasn't started. Little Jimmy Comer has.
Political warfare targets and threatens all Americans.
I'm going to try to do both screens at once.
Speak honestly to the American
people. I think I can. Hold on just a minute. I can't talk like anything else when I hear Jimmy Comer.
That they have fallen for CCP
I'm going to show you my whole screen. It's going to be crazy.
In ways that cause some officials to reflexively dismiss the truth about this communist regime.
There you go.
Worse, some federal officials go so far
This is another decision reversing the Fifth Circuit, which held that the communications by government officials with social media platforms made the government officials responsible for the platform's content moderation decisions.
Spying on Americans.
The Fifth Circuit was wrong to do so.
Fueling the fentanyl crisis that is killing tens of thousands of Americans each year. Stealing trade secrets to stifle American innovation, harassing Chinese students who dare speak out against the regime, threatening our energy grid and critical infrastructure, infiltrating our food supply, and much, much more.
You're too big, Jimmy Comer. Well, I could move this one over a little bit now, couldn't I? Couldn't I? Oh, God. What's the problem?
The CCP uses many tools and people to wage political warfare against America.
We're looking at everything
through what is known as the United Front. The CCP manipulates networks to carry out relationship-focused influence campaigns through a multitude of proxies. The United Front has long used proxies found in the business community amongst cultural and political leaders, in international organizations, and in other influence circles to advance the regime's destructive ambitions. The CCP prioritizes seeking to influence key players in prominent business circles to curry good favor for the party, shape U.S. decision-making, and exploit U.S. businesses. Through deceptive business deals,
what's the fucking problem?
Many American businesses into the lion's den that is China. Once relying on China, too many U.S. companies fall prey to, quote, elite capture. They may find that they feel they have little choice but to support CCP interests to the detriment of their own business and our nation. CCP elite capture tactics have also seeped into federal agencies, influencing their approach to China.
Yes,
Many federal officials, especially in the military and intelligence community, fell for the false CCP narrative of the so-called, quote, peaceful rise of China. And have yet to acknowledge their
so many people don't understand that the U.S. First Amendment doesn't apply to multinational companies.
About the CCP threat were ignored, and some were silenced. Much of the American government seems to have forgotten that its purpose is to promote the interests of Americans. When federal officials transparently message to the public about the CCP threat, they should also help inspire and equip Americans to strengthen their communities, innovate, and create, which will secure a strong and prosperous future for our nation. A strong America can resist even the most aggressive communist political warfare.
And he got
thank the
his
witnesses
hairs cut.
for appearing today and look forward to your testimony. I now yield to Ranking Member Raskin
Jimmy, you look
for
so
his opening
statement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to our witnesses. The majority has convened a hearing on defending America from the Chinese Communist Party's political warfare. This is paradoxical because our colleagues have spent the last 18 months spreading disinformation from Alexander Smirnov that Moscow and Beijing have clearly used as political warfare against America as part of their collapsed impeachment inquiry against President Biden. All over the world, from the autocrats in Moscow to the communist bureaucrats in mainland China to the theocrats in Saudi Arabia, the enemies of constitutional democracy and freedom seek to destabilize the American government. The tyrants of the world are targeting Joe Biden and promoting Donald Trump, who has fawningly described President Xi as a brilliant man, who has called Vladimir Putin a genius, and who has said he fell in love with Kim Jong-un.
Nail color.
While Donald Trump has described President Xi as a very good man, China is in fact an authoritarian police state and violator of the human rights and civil liberties of hundreds of millions of people. President Xi has persecuted, incarcerated, and oppressed the Tibetans, the Uyghurs, and the people of Hong Kong and Taiwan. Xi has made common cause with his fellow tyrants, forming a no-limits alliance with Putin's Russia just a few weeks before Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Beijing maintains a defense treaty with Pyongyang and is a key ally to Kim Jong-un, a third-generation dictator and communist monarch who presides over a totalitarian dungeon for his people. At our last hearing on the CCP's political warfare, Professor Tim Snyder explained how Chinese propaganda ploys have succeeded because certain American officials, including, sadly, some members of this committee, have parroted Russian and Chinese state disinformation. In The Atlantic, Ann Applebaum describes how the CCP's political propaganda against the U.S. both undermines American faith in our own political institutions and helps to consolidate domestic repression in China. As she puts it, quote, if people are naturally drawn to the image of human rights, to the language of democracy, to the dream of freedom, then those concepts have to be poisoned. That requires more than surveillance, more than close observation of the population, more than a political system that defends against liberal ideas. It also requires an offensive plan, a narrative that damages both the idea of democracy everywhere in the world and the tools to deliver it. Far from opposing these autocrats, Donald Trump has joined them in attacking our democracy by promoting utterly debunked claims of election fraud and orchestrating a lawless and violent campaign to overturn the legitimate results of the 2020 presidential election. He has openly stated his desire to pardon criminal insurrectionists and to rule as a dictator, using government not for the common good, but to pursue his political enemies and to enrich himself and his family. As president, Donald Trump received millions of dollars from the Chinese government and state-owned companies, to say nothing of the valuable trademarks Chinese authorities rushed to grant him and his family. In exchange, he opposed sanctions against Chinese telecom companies and banks, even when they threatened our national security. He assured President Xi that sending Uyghurs to forced labor camps was, quote, exactly the right thing to do, and that violently cracking down on pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong was acting very responsibly. He even tried to cancel military exercises with Japan and South Korea because China complained about it. While Donald Trump has proclaimed that he and Xi love each other, the Biden-Harris administration has responded forcefully to the political, security, and economic challenges posed by the CCP. As Secretary Blinken put it, the U.S. relationship with China is the biggest geopolitical test of this century. The Biden administration has shored up our democratic institutions to withstand attacks from autocrats and strengthen our alliances with democracies both in Europe and the Indo-Pacific. While Trump has said he would encourage Russia to, quote, do whatever the hell they want to any NATO member country that doesn't meet spending guidelines on defense, President Biden has established AUKUS, a security pact with Australia, the UK, and the US to help sustain peace in the Indo-Pacific. Domestically, bills championed by congressional Democrats and signed into law by President Biden, including the Inflation Reduction Act, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and the CHIPS and Science Act, are investing in American workers and innovation, creating hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs here and establishing domestic supply chains in strategic industries. These are big wins, not just for our economy, but for our national security.
Oh, it's too hard to see on X.
President Trump has idolized and emulated dictators like Xi and Putin and worked to move our country towards authoritarianism and away from democracy and the rule of law. In stark contrast, the Biden-Harris administration recognizes that the key to outcompeting the People's Republic of China lies in defending the extraordinary journey
James
of
Snyder
American
formerly
democracy,
served as
the enduring
mayor
strength
of
our
Portage,
international
Indiana. He was
relationships,
convicted of
and the
federal
revitalization
funds
of our
bribery in
economic
violation of
competitiveness.
18
I look
U.S.
forward to
Code,
exploring these themes with our
soliciting
expert
and
witnesses,
accepting
including
$13,000 in
our
connection with the
distinguished
city's
former
purchase of
colleague, Tom
garbage
Malinowski.
trucks,
Thank
among
you, Mr.
other.
Chairman. I yield back.
Well, for fuck's
Please
sake, it
introduce
was
our
a fucking
witnesses today. All
bribe.
witnesses are
Good
testifying in
morning,
their
Jay
personal
Rance.
capacity.
Love you. Hi, bestie.
Mary Kissel.
Before, during, and after that, Snyder argued that the evidence did not support finding that there was an agreement to exchange money for the truck contracts before they were awarded without a prior quid pro quo agreement, as argued.
Trends and geopolitical
Section
risk.
666. I
Prior to
love
this
that.
role, she served
Cannot
as the
apply.
senior
Interpreting the
advisor to
plain
the US
language of the
Secretary
statute
of State,
and
Mike Pompeo. Before joining the State Department, Ms. Cassell spent 14 years on the Wall Street
Thanks,
Journal
Gal.
editorial
Oh my
board
gosh,
as chief
thank you.
foreign
Look at
policy
that,
commentator
man.
in New York
I just
and
want to.
editorial
I'm going
page
to take a
editor
picture
for
of that
Asia Pacific,
because,
based in Hong
frankly,
Kong.
oh fuck, I
Captain
didn't get
James Fannell is a retired U.S.
I'm
Navy
gonna
captain.
do it again because this is
He
really
worked
good.
as a naval intelligence officer
Thank you,
specializing
Gal.
in Indo-Pacific affairs for almost 30 years. Most recently, he served as the
I have
director
the
of
other
intelligence
one, the Follow the
and
Science
information
one, too.
operations for the U.S. Pacific Fleet.
I don't think it's
Throughout
on
his
yet.
career in the Navy,
It's not on yet.
He served in an unprecedented
It's
series
not on yet.
of afloat and offshore
I've got the other
ashore
one.
assignments
All right, so
focused
this
on
one we
China.
can get rid of.
He was also a founding member of the Committee on Present Danger China.
You know what I'll do?
He's currently
Guess what
a
I'll
government
do?
fellow with the Geneva Center for Security Policy. Eric Bethel is a former U.S. executive director at the World Bank, where he participated in the analysis and development of over $100 billion of capital in the developing world. He is currently a partner at a venture capital fund focused on maritime sustainability. Prior to these roles, Mr. Bethel worked as an investment banker and private equity professional focused on developing markets and served as managing partner of Sino-Latin Capital and managing director of China Vest in Shanghai, China. Former Congressman Malinowski served 2 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives on behalf of New Jersey's 7th Congressional District. While in Congress, he was vice chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and a member of the Transportation and Infrastructure and Homeland Security Committee.
Frank Gaffney's.
Since leaving Congress, he has been a senior fellow at the John McCain Institute and serves on the boards of Radio Free Europe and Refugees International. Prior to Congress, he served as President Obama's Assistant Secretary of State for Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor, among other roles. Pursuant to Committee Rule 9G, the witnesses will please stand and raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record show that the witnesses answered in the affirmative. Thank you, and you all may take a seat. We appreciate you being here today and look forward to your testimony. Let me remind the witnesses that we have read your written statement and will appear in full in the hearing record. Please limit your oral statement to 5 minutes. As a reminder, please press the button on the microphone in front of you so that it is on and the members can hear you. When you begin to speak, the light in front of you will turn green. After 4 minutes, the light will turn yellow. When the red light comes on, your 5 minutes have expired, and we'd ask that you please wrap up. I now want to recognize Ms. Kissel for her opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member, distinguished members, I'm honored to testify today on the Chinese Communist Party's influence operations and their impact on the Department of State. As former senior advisor to the Secretary, I was one of the few officials who worked across all bureaus and with many of our missions abroad. I saw firsthand China's vast influence operations and why they are a threat to our national security. Xi Jinping has accelerated China's influence operations via expansion and empowerment of the United Front Work Department and other party state apparatuses. Often, these operations seem innocuous and like even friendly exchanges. Sister city agreements, business chamber meetings, think tank conferences, and interviews with Chinese propaganda outlets, to name a few, are all opportunities for gray zone influence operations. Many of these activities are legal under current U.S. law. The Chinese party state targets our diplomats most obviously by attempting to soften their views of its totalitarian regime through formal state-to-state engagement, giving the impression of productive work. Unfortunately, talking to party officials isn't the same as talking to our democratic allies. Beijing uses these exchanges to give itself breathing room to further China's foreign policy priorities and to distract us from the regime's economic coercion, gross human rights violations against the Chinese people, the People's Liberation Army's accelerating militarization, and many other transgressions. This is why our diplomats must always prioritize tracking what China does rather than what its officials say. The Xi regime regularly conducts influence operations within our own borders because we, as a democratic society, allow party officials freedom of movement and speech that no ordinary Chinese citizen enjoys at home. In contrast, our diplomats must apply for advance permission to travel or meet with Chinese officials, permission that is regularly refused without explanation
one of the witnesses in this hearing,
and are closely surveilled and even harassed while doing normal diplomatic work. Additionally, Beijing maintains an unofficial presence in our country, often cloaked as civil society organizations or community-based organizations that ultimately report to and receive money from the party, and in some cases, instructions from China's Ministry of Public Security. We worked to correct these imbalances during the Trump administration using the tools available to the department, such as shuttering China's Houston consulate for its malign activities and reinvigorating long-standing but long-ignored restrictions on Chinese diplomats' travel. Yet we are far from achieving parity in the treatment of our diplomats. More perniciously, China has proved adept at using states' bureaucratic structure to its advantage. Our diplomats are incentivized to smooth disputes and reticent to issue frank statements that might upset their diplomatic counterparts. Different bureaus also pursue different priorities. As a result, state may provide conflicting messaging to Americans. For example,
the wife of the man in the white shirt, and I'm not shaming him, I'm just saying, I'm hoping that someone is texting him and saying,
quote,
just
reconsider travel to the country because of the risk of wrongful detentions.
It's a nice book.
Educating
nice
Americans
shirt,
on gray zone Chinese influence operations is also deeply important for our business community. I serve as a director of 2 publicly traded companies. Few American executives and directors are aware that they, like our diplomats, are prime targets of Chinese influence operations, which aim to identify prominent Americans who may now or in the future be convinced to aid Beijing in some form or fashion. The State Department should be at the forefront of America's efforts to combat CCP influence operations. Our political officers can work with allies to document and curb China's
I heard an interesting,
the Consular Affairs Bureau can issue clear and complete
malign
travel
activities,
warnings while using new
being
technologies to ensure visa applicants from China are thoroughly vetted for links to China's military,
political
intelligence,
disruption
or
for the sake
services.
of political disruption.
Our public diplomacy teams can proactively refute Chinese party propaganda while promoting our superior
and
free
Rich
political
Higgins
system.
to boot.
The I.O. Bureau can track and expose Chinese influence ops at the UN and other multinational bodies that receive substantial U.S. financial contributions.
Surprised by
Here at home, the department can educate and inform subnational units of our federal system that are heavily targeted by influence operations.
If one of your main competitors and/or customers,
the Economic and Business Affairs
has an
Bureau
open
can issue
society
regular
where you
guidance
can freely
on the
move
risks
about
of operating in
society
China
as
and the benefit of diversifying supply
student
chains.
or whatever.
These are just
visitor.
a few ways states should be engaging in this fight.
I understand
These
why.
efforts do not require new resources.
That's kind of opposition research, if you will. I don't want anyone to get hurt by it.
In conclusion, I believe this committee's work is vital to the national interests of the United States. I'm grateful for your attention, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now recognize Captain Fennell for his opening statement.
Chair Comer, Ranking Member Raskin, and distinguished members of this committee, thank you for inviting me to testify. China's political warfare poses an existential threat to America, a threat that we've ignored for far too long. My focus today will be on how our government was so easily co-opted and deceived, as well as how senior officials ignored valid indications and warning and failed to forcefully alert decision makers. Their failure over decades undermined America's ability to build a national security strategy to defend against the PRC's ongoing political warfare. Through such tactics as elite capture, psychological warfare, deception, disinformation, and propaganda, the Chinese Communist Party misled and enculturated our government as well as other American elites. Out of fear of provoking Beijing, these elites blindly promoted the engagement strategy, which was in effect an appeasement strategy. The result, as a matter of national policy, The U.S. chose both to ignore
Rise
and
and grind,
abet the
girl. You get
PRC's
that book out
unrestricted
there.
warfare against
You rise
America.
and grind.
In particular, the intelligence community and the Department of Defense were deceived into buying the lie of China's peaceful rise, and thereby failed to fulfill their most basic function in our government. As a result, senior U.S. leaders unilaterally disarmed, psychologically, intellectually, militarily, despite clear evidence that the PRC's rise was anything but peaceful. These leaders failed to understand that since its inception, the Chinese Communist Party has classified America as its main enemy. They chose to ignore Beijing's clearly stated intent to defeat America first through political warfare, that is, through a protracted Maoist political struggle, as well as through the very real threat of kinetic warfare. While there were some in the government who did their job and gave warning, in general, those officers were silenced. And in a world of dangerous groupthink, these officers were ridiculed, smeared, threatened, and censored. For them, their integrity and accuracy became a career death sentence. Thus, the question to be answered by this committee should be, why did the U.S. National Security Committee, specifically the IC and DOD, fail to recognize this dangerous strategic trend line? Why did they fail to give adequate warning so our government could adopt policies to stop the PRC's malignant rise? Just as has been done before, Congress must compel the IC and DOD to explain this failure. The most important steps must be to understand how it happened, and as such, Congress must demand accountability. Questions that must be answered also include, how did the PRC's political warfare organizations influence and deceive the IC and the DOD? What multiple failures occurred? Why were these failures not corrected internally? What assumptions and biases existed that colored IC and DOD reporting on China? As well as who understood the threat but was ignored or punishment for their accurate assessments? My written testimony provides 7 recommendations for you to use to address this clear and present danger. Today I will focus on just one, that the executive branch and Congress must admit that the U.S. national security community failed. These officials inherit a post-World War II Pax Americana,
Okay, really?
a position of
Versus
overwhelming
fixing whatever's
military and
broken?
political dominance.
Shut up.
And they squandered it.
Right?
Admission of
Fuck
failure
off.
is the most
This guy's
important
just a
first
whiny
step in
but
establishing
retired guy. He's like
accountability
a
and, more
armchair
importantly,
quarterback or
fixing the
whatever.
problem.
Fuck him.
Finally,
Although I love
remain
the tie
extremely
and the
concerned
mustache
that our
is
national
totally
defense
on
today
point.
continues to be
The
degraded
gray
by
suit,
those
you know
who
how I feel
favor
about light gray suits.
unconstrained and unaccountable
No,
engagement
never
with the Chinese
appropriate.
Communist
Ever,
Party.
really.
Despite
be
the
not
overwhelming evidence of the
color
PRC's malicious
in
intentions
suits.
and their lethal capabilities. Just as America must rapidly build the
I don't trust
platforms and
anyone who
weapons
brings their own book.
necessary to
Okay?
deter and
That's
defeat
what
the
I don't
PLA,
trust.
the
I
U.S.
don't trust
government
that.
must also
Let me
fight
know
the
in the
PRC's
chat if you
political
want me to
warfare
jump to
operations,
sound on
which
the
have so
COVID
badly
hearing,
subverted America's
or you stay with this.
defenses.
I think we'll stay
This
with
must
this
be
for
done
now because you can
immediately.
read the
I strongly
captions on the
support this
COVID
committee's
hearing.
work and will do whatever is possible
yeah,
to
we'll just
assist you
keep.
to help
I'll keep
America
tabs
acknowledge our past
on
failures
what you guys are
and
wanting.
to fight against the Chinese Communist Party's political warfare. If the Republic is to survive these attacks, we must vigorously preserve our system of individual liberty, democracy, and rule of law. If we fail, America will surely fall under the boot of an expansionist, genocidal, and totalitarian Chinese Communist Party. I thank the committee for the opportunity to testify, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you very much. And now recognize Mr. Bethel for his opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member, esteemed members of the Oversight Committee, I'm honored to address you today. This is a matter of critical importance, and that is China's expanding influence within multilateral institutions and the imperative that we have
GP,
to
you're
address
right.
this development.
Fabric matters.
Drawing from my own experience
Material
at the World Bank
matters.
as the U.S. Director,
Flannel,
I've witnessed
well-tailored,
firsthand
okay.
the nuanced and strategic efforts that China has employed to enhance its presence within key
everyone
international
understands that
bodies.
China, Iran,
These
North
efforts
Korea are a threat.
significantly impact global
This isn't new.
governance
I know.
and regulations.
They failed to discuss Russia.
China's
Russia.
concerted plans to augment its influence are evident across
Who's Eric
several
Bethel?
pivotal
He
organizations.
seems like he's hungover.
For instance, China
I think he
holds
spent too
significant
much
sway
time at the
with the International Telecommunications Union,
Red Roof
the
Inn
ITU.
bar last
This
night.
is an organization that actively helps shape the global telecommunications
He really lit it up in
standards. In
old
2014,
Alexandria last
Zhao
night.
Holin was elected Secretary General, and he remained at the organization until 2022. During his tenure, China leveraged its influence at this organization to support companies such
Of
as
course
Huawei
he
and
is.
ZTE.
So he was lighting
Meanwhile,
it up
at the
at the
United Nations
bar,
Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO,
trying to pick up
they
co-eds
exemplify China's
at the
strategic
bars in
alignment of
Alexandria last
multilateral
night.
initiatives
He
with
took
their
that ring
domestic
off,
agenda.
and he was
UNIDO
like
was initially established to
cruising.
promote the industrialization of the developing world. In 2013, Chinese Communist Party member Li
Where
Yong
is Mick
became
Mulvaney
executive
now? I
director.
hate that
And during
guy.
his
I want him to
8-year term,
really get it.
China seamlessly
Get
integrated UNIDO with the Belt and Road Initiative, otherwise known as the BRI. The UNIDO endorsement not only
and I
enhanced
mean, that's, you know,
China's
like,
credibility, but it also extended their
of
economic
course,
and
China's
strategic
competition,
reach globally,
and they have
leveraging other multilateral
none of that,
platforms
all
to
of that
further
makes
their
sense.
national interests.
All of their
The CCP's involvement
beef
in
with
the
us
International
makes sense.
Civil Aviation Organization has also
Russia
been
is
concerning,
not going to be a
particularly regarding
world
the establishment
economy.
of air
I'm
navigation
sorry.
and safety
I love
standards.
Russia. I
Liu
studied
Fan
Russia
led
in
the
college.
organization
I
from
studied the
2015
Russian
to
language.
2021.
I've been to
During
Russia
her
a couple
tenure,
of times,
the
pre-Soviet
ICAO came under fire for
and
denying
post-Soviet.
Taiwan access to
I
participation
love
in
Russia. I
crisis
love
coordination
Moscow.
efforts
It is
during COVID,
probably
and then attempting to silence
in the top
criticism
3
on
cities
Twitter.
in my world.
China's ascendancy
I don't know. There's something
extends
about it. The
far
way it
beyond these
smells,
examples.
the way
I
it's
don't have
just so.
enough time to
It's
go
my
through
New
them.
York City.
Its
It's
influence
my.
permeates other critical
You know, like,
multilateral
I
bodies,
love
including
Moscow.
the 15
I
principal
wouldn't live
agencies
there,
of the
but I
United
love it.
Nations, where Chinese deputies hold influential
So it makes me
positions.
sad to see what's
The
happening
implications
to
of
Russia
China's
in terms
influence
of
within these
Putin
institutions are
ruining
profound. They extend
the country he
beyond mere
claims to love so much.
representation,
Hi, give me coffee.
to
Oh my God, I
shaping
have, like,
global engagement,
cat hair.
rules, regulations,
I think
and
it's cat
standards.
hair.
China's involvement in the ITU,
Anyway,
for instance, impacts global
yeah.
telecommunication standards.
But this guy
with significant
definitely was.
ramifications for technology and innovation
He was doing
worldwide.
karaoke at
Similarly,
about
its
1:30 in
influence
the
at
morning.
UNIDO and other international
And
bodies
now he's like,
reflects
"Oh,
its efforts
man."
to align
He's about 3
multilateral
Red
initiatives
Bulls in.
with China's foreign policy agendas,
Yeah,
such as
about
the Belt
3.
and Road.
That's what I'd say.
As China continues to assert its influence in multilateral institutions, it's imperative for the international community, including the United States, to respond effectively. Failure to address this issue could result in a significant shift in global governance dynamics. And this is going to have far-reaching effects for international corporations.
Oh, he has one of those
the
hair
rules-based
shirts,
order,
Gal.
and the promotion of
You know?
democratic values.
And then he also has one of
During
those.
my
What are
tenure
those
at the
things
World
they
Bank,
whip?
I observed
You whip
firsthand
yourself
the
with
critical
when you're
importance of maintaining
atoning?
the integrity and
Like the
impartiality
leather
of multilateral
straps with like
institutions.
nails on them or
Ensuring
something.
that these
You're supposed to
organizations serve
do.
the
It's
collective
not
interests of the
stigmata, but
international
it's like
community
another
is
word.
paramount. We
I
should
can't
develop
remember.
a comprehensive
Supreme Court
strategy
rejects
to
challenge to
safeguard
Biden
these
administration
institutions
contacts with social
from
media.
undue influence and ensure that they remain effective in
Boop,
promoting
boop,
government
boop. Thank you,
global
Gal, for that
development and
link. I
stability.
appreciate it.
In conclusion, I urge the committee
I'll
to
pull it
recognize
up.
the urgency of addressing China's expanding influence
Flagellation.
within
Thank
multilateral
you,
institutions.
Pepper. Oh
It's
my
essential
God,
to
Sister
develop
Pepper.
a
Thank
comprehensive
you. I
strategy
love you.
to safeguard the
Hey,
integrity,
I just want to tell you I love you.
impartiality, and the effectiveness
Self-flagellation.
of these
That's what I meant. Yeah, you know they do
so that we can ensure that they serve the collective interests of the international community.
I'm naughty.
Thank you for your attention to this pressing matter.
Thank you very much. I now recognize
Yeah,
Congressman
you're right. He
Malinowski
did that.
for his
He
opening
flagellated.
Thank you, Mr.
He
Chairman.
looks like a
Mr. Raskin,
flagellator.
It's great to be back with you.
It's great to be back with you.
As we
Is this
focus
Eric
on
Metaxas?
America's
No, I'm just
vulnerabilities
kidding.
today, I'd like us to remember our
Who are
strengths. America has the strongest economy in
Tom
the world.
Malinowski.
China is struggling. We have allies. China has none. We're a
I do
democracy
like the
with
suit. I
ideas that
love the
people
burgundy
everywhere find
tie.
attractive.
Loving it.
China is the opposite. Everyone wants to
S&M,
come
yeah.
to America. No one wants to immigrate
Yes.
to China. In fact,
Yes,
they are
you
losing their
did.
best and brightest people to us. All that said, a CCP-led China does pose a growing political, military, and economic threat to the United States, and CCP political warfare in America is part of that picture. But it's essential to remember what China is trying to accomplish, the ends as well as the means, which are to amplify our divisions and to create political paralysis so that we squander our strengths so that our government cannot act to meet our challenges. So how do we beat that? First, I believe that the Trump administration deserves credit for beginning to change the old paradigm of U.S.-China relations. The Biden administration rightly continued what its predecessors started, including its trade measures. But Biden added far more
in the
effective
80s,
restrictions
man.
to
I was there
deny
in
China
84.
access to critical
That was
technologies,
fucking
and unlike
crazy. They
Trump,
really did.
He got our European allies to join us. This kind of unity is precisely what we need to win and what CCP political warfare aims to prevent. If we want to win, we need to invest in our own industrial base, bring high-tech manufacturing back to America, and make sure that we, not China, dominate the clean energy technologies
China
of the future.
should be a trade partner.
Exactly what the Biden administration is doing, thanks to the infrastructure
they
bill,
should
the
not
CHIPS Act,
take over
and the Clean Energy and Science Investments,
by
and the
force.
Inflation Reduction
That's
Act.
it.
Please remember
They shouldn't
this.
take over countries that don't want to be taken over. They shouldn't spy on us.
It is
or
currently
whatever.
suing the United States and the World Trade Organization to stop the IRA's electrical vehicle subsidies. That's how they are trying to weaken America, and it tells us all we need to know about how to strengthen it. If we want to win, we have to strengthen our security alliances. Here again, Biden has succeeded through the AUKUS
for the
partnership
super
by defending
chat.
the Philippines and the South China Sea, by bringing Japan and South Korea
Yay, Mom and Dad
closer
are settling
together.
into parenthood
Remember that
nicely.
President Trump threatened to pull our
Pep, I'm
troops
so happy
out
to
of
hear
Japan
that.
and South Korea, which would have realized
Predictive text, and
the
it makes
wildest
my
fantasies
grammar look poor.
of CCP
No, you're
strategists seeking to displace
Yes,
U.S. power.
it is doing a
in Asia.
lot of work.
And President Biden has also been right to heed the
Lots and
advice of our
tons.
friends
Lots
in
and
Taiwan
tons.
by helping Ukraine.
Baby,
The CCP wants
yay,
Putin to win in Ukraine.
congratulations.
It was obviously happy to see the National Security Supplemental with its funding for both
Oh,
Taiwan
that's so
and
cute. It's
Ukraine
like a little-
held up for
it's a
so
big
many
lemon.
months. Passing that bill was another defeat for CCP.
And a little
political
lime.
And finally, if we want to win, we
That's
have
so
to stand
cute.
up consistently for our
I
values
love
and
it.
for American
It's
institutions.
adorable.
I believe the Biden administration has done that
and
too.
Goonies.
And while the Trump administration sometimes tried and deserves credit for it,
You had the hiccup.
it was repeatedly undercut by Trump personally. You don't win a contest of ideas with the
I got
CCP under a leader who says, as President Trump did,
I don't think I'm ready
that
to be
Xi
a grandma
Jinping is,
yet,
quote,
though.
smart, brilliant, everything
I'm too
perfect
selfish with
because
my
he, quote,
time.
runs 1.4 billion
Although I
people
would be a
with an
great,
iron
I will
fist.
be a great grandma.
And finally,
I will
please
be a
remember this.
fantastic grandma.
One of the
You
goals of
baby hiccup
CCP
dog,
political
tiny
warfare
down.
is to discredit the United States and our democracy.
I miss having
I
a
went up
little
against
one.
them many times as a diplomat. They tried to probe
But
every
that's
single
okay.
internal weakness we had in that way. We're not going to
Avoid
rebut
martial
CCP propaganda
exaggerations.
about us.
Describe things
If we
as
have
they are.
leaders in our own country who say that America's elections are rigged, that our free
I
press is the enemy of the
will. I
people,
will, I
that
will.
our independent
Woo.
judiciary
I'm a
is
great
corrupt,
auntie.
that we have political
I'm
prisoners
fun.
in America,
We play
that it is
games. Do,
America's
do, do,
fault
do.
that Russia invaded
I'm so
Ukraine.
silly. You did a lot of
and
work
so
in
on
Russia. It
and
was
so
right
on.
after Denim Days.
If
Yeah.
you're a CCP propagandist trying to disparage
That would
America,
change
and you
a
hear
little if you
stuff
really
like
had one.
that,
Oh,
you
really?
don't have to invent your own material anymore. All you have to do is retweet
Yeah,
the
resist
Americans who say it.
propaganda.
Now, there's a lot that Democrats and Republicans can do together
hair,
to combat CCP political
that
warfare
color of pink.
inside our country. I
Ma'am,
agree with
I
much
just
of the
wanna
picture
tell
that you
you,
painted, Mr.
I
Chairman.
am falling
There's
at your
bipartisan
feet right now.
legislation in this Congress and
That
previous
is one of the
Congresses
most
that should be
stunning
taken
shades
up,
of
that I hope we have a
pink
chance to talk
I have
about
ever
today
seen.
to deal with some of those specific
Gal, do you
concerns.
see the
But
the
above all, I
ombre
hope we'll keep in
pink?
mind what China wants us to
It
do
is
to
fan-
ourselves.
that is fucking-
to stop believing
that is-
and investing in our country
Chef's kiss.
and to stop
Chef's
leading
kiss,
the world.
ma'am.
And then
Chef's
we should
kiss.
do the exact
You.
opposite.
You are
Thank
amazing.
you, and I look forward to your questions.
That's beautiful color.
Votes
That's
have just been
fucking
called.
legit. Whoever
just
lives
2
in
votes,
DC better ask
and
her where she
the
gets her
Speaker's
color
office
done
has
because
sent out
that's
a notice
one
that they're
fucking
not gonna hold
expert
these votes
colorist.
open as long as they have been.
That's fucking
So
good work.
We're going to recess for approximately until
course he
approximately
is.
10 minutes.
Okay. All right, fine then. We'll listen to Jimmy. We'll go over to the other Jimmy.
It wasn't gain of function done in the lab in Wuhan, China. And misinformation is when the government said it has to be, can't be from the lab. It has to be a bat to a pangolin to a hippopotamus to people, and then we all get COVID, right? That's misinformation from our government to the citizens.
But did
We're
someone
big boys
say
and
a
girls.
rhino?
Give us the
What?
stinking truth. And that's what this hearing's about. Why did they want the,
Aw.
why was it so important to get the licensure for the
Cars
vaccine?
would almost crash. Oh my
Because they
gosh.
wanted to mandate it on the people.
Hey,
Mandate a
Badger.
vaccine they
Hi,
lied to us
sweetheart.
about. They wanted
Good
to mandate it
morning.
on the people.
Good morning.
And so what did they do? They had two good doctors working in our government. Dr. Krauss and Dr. Gruber said, wait a minute. We should follow the rules. We should follow the process. We shouldn't speed it up just because you want to mandate something on the American people
He's so
that you
angry,
told us
isn't he?
things about that were not
God,
accurate.
I know, Snowden,
Let's follow
it's
the process
terrible. I'm
like
sorry.
they always did. These were the two doctors who always handled this.
Wait, he fucked
And
a
what did they do?
hippo and got
They
COVID?
kicked him to the curb.
Whoa.
They said, no, you're not doing it fast enough. The Biden
Oh,
administration
GP is
wants
a
to mandate the
very,
vaccine on our
very
military and on
good-looking-
businesses all across this country.
Yeah.
So they
He's
got
beautiful,
kicked to the curb.
Beautiful.
And they sped this thing up.
Mandated
and
on
maybe,
the people.
Maybe people were harmed
gonna
because of it.
mandate it
I'm not
on
against
the
vaccines.
people.
I
Yeah,
wasn't
you are
against this
actually.
vaccine.
Well, you know, it's funny
All I'm saying
because
is let's
actually
do it
you
right.
are. But that's okay.
And oh, by the way, let's not have
I
good
don't know.
doctors like
I
Dr.
just
Vaughn
think-
change how they treat their
Yeah.
patients for some political
Mandate on
agenda
the
driven by
people.
the government who misinformed
I
the
got
citizens
Jimmy
about
Jordan
about this pandemic. That's why this hearing's important. I yield
I
back to the chairman.
got the Jimmy
I want to be clear,
Jordan.
today's
I'm
hearing is not
trying
an
to blame someone
anti-vaccine
for my
hearing.
sadness blues.
Today's hearing is about what we need to do to restore faith in our public health institutions
How do we
like
restore
CDC
faith
and
in an
FDA.
institution
And
that
the misinformation and the skipping of steps
personally
does not give trust to
and
these
detracted
organizations.
over
Another
and over
piece of
and over
misinformation
and
is that
over
natural immunity isn't real. Now, I see that votes have been
again.
called. I'm going to recognize the ranking member for his opening statement, and we're told that they are going to gavel down on this first vote at 20 minutes. So anybody that wants to get a head start, go ahead. And
you
after
go
the ranking
vote.
member delivers his statement, we'll take a brief recess.
Okay, well, while he does his statement,
Yield
I'm
to
going to
Mr.
go
Nadler.
to
Thank
the
you,
bathroom.
Mr. Chairman. Once again, we're here to explore another
Hold
Republican
on.
conspiracy theory grounded in misinformation that places ideology over facts. It is the result of yet one more so-called investigation by the majority that has borne no fruit, despite consuming many months and untold hours of staff time, as well as the time of our federal
Someone fucked a
agencies,
hippo?
not to mention many wasted taxpayer dollars. But just because their latest fishing expedition has turned up no evidence of wrongdoing does not mean that it is harmless. In fact, it is quite the opposite. By attempting to undermine confidence in the safety and efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines, their unsupported and disproven claims have real and devastating consequences to the health of our nation. Vaccine hesitancy is now growing, not just for COVID vaccines, but for other life-saving vaccines like RSV, measles, flu, and even polio. Let's remember how we got here. As of this week, 7 million people worldwide have died of COVID-19, including 1.1 million Americans. In January 2021, when President Biden took office, the COVID-19 pandemic was hitting its deadliest peak so far, with over 3,000 Americans dying every day. By February 2021, more Americans had died of COVID-19 than had died on the battlefields of World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War combined. Thanks to President Biden's and congressional Democrats' decisive action on COVID, 3.2 million additional deaths from COVID-19 were prevented, 18.5 million additional hospitalizations were prevented, and $1.15 trillion in medical costs were avoided. These interventions saved lives. Let me say that again. Vaccines against COVID-19 saved lives. But instead of accepting the overwhelming consensus of our nation's scientists and doctors, the majority is wasting
I know,
14
hippos are
months
mean, man. They'll
trying to
kill you.
undermine the
They're
nation's
like really
confidence in these
mean. I
vaccines
appreciate the flamingo
and to
pink
prove that they
reference,
were
although
rushed
we
for
don't want to
political
traumatize poor J. Rance.
Mountain
Oh,
of
that's true.
evidence
We got a
shows that
lot
they
of
were
pink
not.
going on. I'm
In
going to
particular, they have
admit
alleged
that.
the FDA bowed to political pressure and compromised its review of the Pfizer vaccine.
Chewing off
Every
own
witness
foot,
they brought in as
caught
part of
in
this
bear trap
investigation
of
testified
empirical
that it underwent a
reality.
complete, thorough, and scientifically rigorous review.
I think I agree.
They made clear that the FDA did not approve the vaccine until it ensured
What's
that
the
it was safe,
political
effective,
endgame
and
of
of high
the
quality.
anti-vax
And
lunacy?
their
I'm
claims
thinking
of so-called political
acceleration.
pressure from
Yeah,
President
maybe it's
Biden
just to
authorize
keep it,
booster
it's to
shots for all
stoke the
Americans by
fire,
September
maybe?
2021, that didn't
Jim,
happen
but
either. In fact, the FDA did
I
not
visited my
authorize
mother-in-law
booster shots for
yesterday, and they have a
everyone
COVID
until
breakout in her
November
assisted living. Oh my
2021,
God, Jim, that's
after they
happened a few
concluded a
times
complete and thorough review.
with your
Don't take my word for it.
mother-in-law's
This is what
facility.
majority's own witnesses told them when they were interviewed. Dr. Peter Marks, the director of the Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research at the FDA, said, quote, "There were no corners cut with respect to safety or effectiveness or quality of these vaccines." Dr. Marion Gruber, former director of the Office of Vaccines Research and Review at the FDA, said that when the vaccines were authorized for emergency use in late 2020, quote, "I had confidence that the requirements as laid out by statute were met. And as I said before, may be effective and the potential
that
known and
would be
potential
actually
benefits
really
would outweigh the known and
amazing.
potential risks.
I know.
Dr.
I don't
Philip
want anyone
Krauss,
to get
former
seriously
deputy director
hurt.
of the Office of Vaccines Research and Review
But
at the
if he got
FDA,
just
and the witness here today said,
clocked
quote,
in the face,
it turned out the vaccines blew away those criteria.
Kind of shake
The
things
vaccines
up.
were about 95% effective, and the lower bound was in the high 80s or even above 90%
Oh my
for one of
God,
the
that's
vaccines.
funny.
And so the public could have very high confidence that those vaccines worked.
I like it. I like the Nalgene.
Despite the rigorous
I
and
like the
independent
old school
assessment by the
Nalgene
FDA
he's
in
got
reviewing
going
these
on. I
vaccines,
fucking love that.
the majority is
Wait.
providing a platform today
Love,
for those who seek to perpetuate its campaign of and disinformation about COVID-19 vaccines. It is bad enough that they are trying to undermine confidence in vaccines that were essential in bringing an end to the devastating COVID-19 pandemic. But their efforts have a far more pernicious impact.
I'm getting real
They're
high
weakening
today.
support for
What
a
is
wide
wrong?
range of
Oh, I
vaccines that have kept
coffee on my
Americans
nail.
safe for decades. Vaccines for
Oh, that's
measles,
not it.
RSV, flu, polio, and for many other dangerous infectious diseases have been proven over and
Wait,
over
what's
again
this?
to be safe and effective. But
Oh,
a
shit.
determined campaign against them have led to declining rates of vaccination throughout the nation. For example, after holding steady for a decade, routine vaccination rates for kindergartners have not
Okay,
yet
I've got that
rebounded
pulled up.
to their
All right, I've got it
pre-pandemic
pulled.
levels.
I'm linked in.
This puts us all at risk.
That's not love. It's
Congress
just
has heard
email.
evidence time and again that these vaccines are safe and effective. We know that vaccinations reduce mortality rates, but instead of promoting public health guidance based on science and facts, House Republicans have joined efforts to spread misinformation with utter disregard for the health and well-being of their constituents. I urge my colleagues to
Rona
retreat
is on the rise,
from
and
this
yeah.
dangerous
Oh, my volume
path.
could be loud. Oh,
I
okay.
thank the witnesses for appearing today, and I yield back my time.
They're gonna
Thank the ranking
stop
member. Without
now, so-
objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record. We're going to
Okay, good.
And please come back as soon as those votes are.
Okay, so they're gonna go do their little votey vote. Actually, I should probably try and find. Let me see if I can. Oh, maybe not. Okay. All right. Okay. There we go. How about that? I can turn myself up a little bit. Hold on. But I just don't want to blow it out. Because remember, like last time, I was kind of blowing out the microphone. Read the NY Times. Oh, yeah. Okay, hold on. Hold it, Ani. Wait, this one? Okay. I'm sure I wanna leave and I wanna go somewhere. Okay, let's read. Supreme Court rejects challenge to Biden administration's contacts with social media companies. I gotta move my computer. The case, one of several this term on how, I'm putting my, putting my hands on my hips. The case, one of several on this term on how the First Amendment applies to technology platforms, was dismissed on the ground that the plaintiffs lack standing to sue. Hi, Supreme Court, by Adam Liptak. The Supreme Court handed the Biden administration a major practical victory on Wednesday, rejecting a challenge to its contacts with social media platforms to combat what administration officials said was misinformation. The court ruled that states and users who had challenged... I should go check it. Yes, please do. Oh, the Missouri one. Oh, right. Patrick Byrne and Tori Morris were obsessing about this decision. Okay, good to know. Here we go. The court ruled that the states and users who had challenged the contacts had not suffered the sort of direct injury that gave them standing to sue. The decision, by a 6-3 vote, left fundamental legal questions for another day. The plaintiffs, this is a quote, without any concrete link between their injuries and the defendant's conduct, ask us to conduct a review of the years-long communications between dozens of federal officials across different agencies with different agendas. With different social media platforms about different topics. I don't know where I got agenda. Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote for the majority. This court's standing doctrine prevents us from exercising such general legal oversight of other branches of government. MAGA is raging. It's not like they don't have a half dozen shitter clones where disinfo can go. I think it's hilarious. Okay. Justice Samuel Alito Jr., joined by Justices Clarence Thomas and Neil Gorsuch, dissented. Quote, for months, Justice Alito wrote, high-ranking government officials placed unrelenting pressure on Facebook to suppress Americans' free speech. Because the court unjustifiably refuses to address this serious threat to the First Amendment, I respectfully dissent. Watch me. The case arose from a barrage of communications from administration officials. A barrage? Is that how you do that? A barrage? Okay, that's an interesting choice of words, Adam. My goodness, little bit feelings, little in your feelings there, aren't you, Adam? Little in your feelings about that. The case arose from a barrage of communications from administration officials urging platforms to take down posts on topics like the coronavirus vaccine and claims of election fraud. The attorneys general of Missouri and Louisiana, both Republicans, sued, saying that many of those contacts violated the First Amendment. Judge Terry Doughty, or whatever, of the Federal District Court for the Western District of Louisiana agreed, saying that the lawsuit described what could be the most massive attack against free speech in United States history. I didn't do that very well. Sorry, Louisiana. I really apologize. Judge Doughty, who was appointed by President Donald Trump, issued a 10-part injunction that prohibited countless officials from, quote, threatening, pressuring, or coercing social media companies in any manner to remove, delete, suppress, or reduce posted content of postings containing protected free speech. Let's see. A unanimous 3-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans narrowed the injunction, but not by much. The panel, in an unsigned opinion, said that administration officials had become excessively entangled with the platforms or used threats to spur them to act. The panel entered an injunction forbidding many officials to coerce or significantly encourage social media companies to remove content protected by the First Amendment. The revised injunction said officials shall take no actions, formal or informal, directly or indirectly, to coerce or significantly encourage social media companies to remove, delete, suppress, or reduce, including through altering their algorithms, posted social media content containing protected free speech. I'm going to come to the chat because you guys are saying a lot of good stuff. 2 members of the panel, Judges Edith B. Clement and Jennifer Elrod, were appointed by George Bush. The third, Judge Don Willett, was appointed by Mr. Trump. The Biden administration filed an emergency application in September asking the Supreme Court to pause the injunction, saying that the government was entitled to express its views and try to persuade others to take action. The court granted the administration's application, put the Fifth Circuit's ruling on hold, and agreed to hear the case Murphy v. Missouri. 3 justices dissented from the September ruling. Government censorship of private speech is antithetical to our democratic form of government, and therefore today's decision is highly disturbing. Justice Alito wrote, joined by Justices Clarence and Neil Gorsuch. Go suck. Okay, wait, where's the opinion? Where's the dissent? Did they link the dissent? No, that's the other opinion. Come on, baby, driving me crazy. Okay, wait, let me come back over here. MAGA's raging. It's not okay. So LL, the right wing publication Town Hall says First Amendment dealt major blow after SCOTUS rules plaintiffs in Murphy v. Missouri lack standing. Hi, Clayberg. Good morning. Teresa, good morning. Yes, Oomph says, yes, pay attention to dissenting judges' particular word choices in describing facts, and in the controlling opinion, too. Notably, routinely recognizable in Alito Thomas dissents. Interesting. Here's a digital soldier response. I'm going to continue with good mornings, and we're going to go to that. Actually, let me just go ahead and go to that. Do-dar. Here we go. Brian Cates. I'm a political columnist, and oh no, guess what, Brian? Guess what, Brian?
Guess what you get, Brian?
Okay, but first, let's see. They were also mad that QAnon was deplatformed. Wow, did something happen? I mean, the drug that's mixed in. SCOTUS rejects suit alleging federal government bullied social media companies into censoring content. Oh, here we go. Among the co-plaintiffs is Jim Hoft, founder of the St. Louis-based right-wing conspiracy website Gateway Pundit. Hoft has built a career on promulgating false conspiracies on a wide range of topics, from the 2018 Parkland school shooting to former President Barack Obama's birth certificate. His company recently filed for bankruptcy as it faces defamation lawsuits in Missouri and Colorado, filed by people who say they face threats after being vilified by Gateway Pundit and false stories. During appeals court arguments last year, the attorneys general specifically cited Hoft, claiming that he is, quote, currently subjected to an ongoing campaign by federal officials to target the content on his website. Hoft claims that in Twitter in December 2020 censored content about the Hunter Biden laptop story at the urging of federal government, but Barrett wrote that Twitter acted according to its own rules against posting or sharing privately produced, distributed intimate media of someone without their express consent. Oh, that's the Missouri Independent. Cool. Okay, let's read MAGA tears. Okay, get your cups out, kids. Get ready to catch those tears. Welcome to 107 viewers across all platforms. It looks like we have 87 viewers on Twitter. Thank you everyone for coming. Please come on over to YouTube. We've got such smart people in the chat and it's such a nice place. I really want you all to come over here and chat with us. At Real Lolo. It's right there. It's right there. At Real Lolo. Okay. Here we go. Let's read. Okay, wait, Brian.
Here we go. To get technical on the SCOTUS ruling today on the Missouri v. Biden temporary injunction sought by the plaintiffs. The plaintiffs in Missouri v. Biden, the state AGs, of Missouri and Louisiana, asked the SCOTUS to grant them a temporary injunction that forbid big tech companies like X and Facebook and YouTube and Instagram from censoring their users' data using cutout NGOs. I don't even know what that means. This temporary injunction would stop big tech and government from continuing. Wait, what? Oh, okay. Oh, and we have some QAnon tears. Good. Okay, wait. This temporary injunction would stop big tech and big government from continuing to coordinate behind the scenes as the cases move forward, as argued. And the SCOTUS issues its ruling, which hasn't happened yet. Got that? Neither side has presented its case yet. All that's been argued before SCOTUS thus far is the request from the plaintiffs for a temp injunction that would stop the defendants from continuing this censorious behavior while the case is moving through the courts. Today, SCOTUS ruled that the plaintiffs do not, okay, I'm repeating it, do not have standing to request this temporary injunction and have denied it. So, until the case itself is heard, and the SCOTUS issues its ruling, probably in the next term, big tech and big government can continue to use NGOs to target speech on social media. That's right. However, I would point out that many of these NGOs are already disbanding. Yeah. Such as Stanford Internet Observatory, because they know what's coming. Thanks for this. Let's see. Thank you. Oh my God, conspiracy to overflow to a deadly contact. Ah! What are you? Ah! What? Okay, hold on. Sorry. Oh, wait,
I gotta stop that. I'm so sorry. Okay, wait. Oh, here we go. Tracy Beans. Come on, girl. Here we go. Oh no, we got another one. Let's see. I don't really have another funny voice. I mean, No, that's
really annoying. Okay. My name is Twicy Beans, and I work for, I think I work for Mike Flynn, but I don't really know. Anyways, I got some stuff to tell you guys, and it's not gonna be fun, okay? So just strap in. The Missouri v. Biden SCOTUS decision will be threaded today. Please do not jump to any conclusions, make any emotional decisions, or misinterpret the standing in this opinion. I have my pre-show and my podcast, and we'll get to work after. That's right, bitches. Rise and grind. I mean, after doing your podcast and your pre-show, right? And doing this tweet. Anyway, all right, so then I had this thing. Oh, wait, here's my thread. Yeah, oh, sorry. Okay. Anyway, so here we go. This is the real one. This is what I meant. In Murphy v. Missouri, the SCOTUS reverses the temporary injunction and remands the case. It shouldn't come as a surprise, okay? I was pretty sure this is going to happen. I don't know if you've been listening. Wait. Oh, here we go. Well, let's just go through this. Justin. Wait. Oh, here we go.
Justin. Wait, no. I think...
Justin. I don't think there's any way to spin it. This is a big loss. This will impact numerous cases currently pending, including mine. Ouch.
There's no spin. It's just an understanding of the opinion rooted in a fact. I knew this would happen. It was argued very poorly. You do know the cause goes on, right? Like, it isn't the end, but it sucks.
It does suck. Even though the ruling is on standing, the commentary of the majority opinion will be used against all of our cases. Platforms had independent incentives to moderate content and often exercise their own judgment. To be sure, the record reflects that government defendants played a role in at least some of the platform's moderation choices. I can't really point to any of them, but probably. But the Fifth Circuit, by attributing every platform decision, at least in part, to the defendants' glossed over complexities in the evidence. Oh my God. Wait. Oh, I guess that's the only one.
The dissent can be used in court as well. Thomas and Alito will give plenty of ammo. Best wishes. Wait, there's another one. Here we go. Let's see.
But outstanding too, which is going to make proceeding with this case post-preliminary injunction nearly impossible.
They don't have standing for a temporary injunction. All caps, bitch. Not the case as a whole. They basically say they couldn't prove future harm enough for an injunction yet.
Still disappointing.
I'm sorry. I gotta stop. This is too much. I'm so sorry. I just think that's actually how she might really talk, like she might be acting. She might be an amazing voice actress. You don't know. The Terminator. That's the GOP robot. Remember, we named it already. And
this one is just MAGA. It's just any fucking maggot, they get this treatment because everything they say sounds so much more accurate when it's this voice.
It's just like, it's amazing. It's amazing how much that voice transforms what they've written, right? Like it actually makes it like more relevant. I don't know. Let me just check on our Defending America. We're defending America. Defending America. Yeah. Yeah, we're defending America. Oh, yeah, here's where I was this morning. This is why I'm single, by the way. Just so you know. I know. It is, Julie. It makes me crack up. It really does. Yeah, anyway, I was on Rumble because I have no life. Or let's check in with old Steve-O.
About what's going to happen tomorrow. Why did you write? What is the purpose?
All those icons
why did you
behind
write
him.
This book?
Oh,
well,
God.
You know, the book is solely dedicated to Navy. And
is your life as
this
dedicated
is
to your daughter?
absolutely.
The girl
but,
that had
two
a
reasons. One,
this is
I
a
want
baby
my daughter
mama.
to grow up and
Hunter
know
Biden
that
baby mama
I didn't
book.
lay in the shadows, and I didn't take shit. I stood up for myself. I'm telling my story. I'm doing this for her. And, you know,
What's
two,
up,
I want her to be able to give people forgiveness and grace, even if they don't deserve it, even if they haven't apologized. I want her to be able to do that and be that type of person because, you know, it's not her burden to bear. It's not my burden to bear.
Sorry.
You know, and to forgive them is
And that was something completely
even
different.
If you don't apologize, it's not my burden to bear.
So you want this book
Roberts,
to be something that she can look back on
London
when she's cognizant that
And admire her mother
for
Sorry, she's getting down. Hi, Paul J.
Is that the
Are you all
values
jacked
that were
up on
imbued
Mountain Dew?
by your parents?
I hope
to
so.
you by your parents?
I don't think I've even ever drank a Mountain Dew.
Well, Joe Biden.
Why was Assange
Biden
tried in the Mariana Island Federal District Court? Probably because it was the safest place to do
Part
it.
of the deplorables or MAGA,
I would
just
imagine.
the hardworking folks that go about their business. But that's what they believe, and they show
Bannon
action
deserves
to the
jail
belief,
time
as
just
you
for
have
having
made Navy
her
Joe
on.
the center of your life, and now you've come up with this book. The Bidens say that all the time. Do you believe that the Bidens actually believe it?
Believe that families first.
Yes.
There we go. Hey, Bannon,
Well, I
suck
know
my
that,
big D.
you know,
Enjoy prison.
There's a little girl that is their family that they haven't ever seen in person.
Oh, wait.
So,
I do this. Actually, I do
Would
this.
you-
Cash App.
One
Cash
of the
App
efforts,
me,
are
ho.
you trying in this book to actually have the Bidens
Wait,
embrace
no,
Navy
I'm gonna
Joan
do this.
and actually spend time with
Cash
her
App
and
me. Whoops.
let her become part of their family? Is that your objective?
Ho.
No, my objective for the book is just like I said. Like I want her to know that I stood with 10 toes down, and
What?
I'm
10 toes
fighting for her. I
down? What the
fight for
hell's that mean?
Her story. And
Here
who
we go.
she
Here's
is.
my
Like, I
Cash
want
App
her
me,
to have
hoes.
a mother that she can look back on and admire, and think, you know, she didn't.
I like to drop my
lay down and
Cash
just
App
get
in
kicked
Rumble a
around
lot.
and stay in these
Curious
shadows.
what
She
everyone
came out of the
thinks of
shadows,
Ultra
and she
2
spoke
so
her
far.
truth and her story.
What's Ultra 2?
And her truth being your truth
What's
is
Ultra
what?
2?
I'm sorry, what?
You said spoke her truth. You just used
Yeah,
that
like told
phrase.
her story.
Okay.
You know, just told her side of
All
the
this,
story.
everything we read in this book is a lot of controversy.
Come on, man. I left, cleaned my
110%
bathroom, and this
true.
crap is still on. Here we go.
I didn't make up stories.
Well, I'm just asking. You said speak your truth. Is this book because the Bidens are going to sit there and have on cable TV and other things? They're not going to sit there and go, "Oh, this is terrific. Why didn't we think of having this book out earlier?" They're going to cut this. They're going to tear this book to shreds, and they're going to tear you to shreds. You do understand that, right? You understand that this is. You're not talking
she's,
about
like,
a private situation
uncomfortable.
with the family. It's just an average family. Okay,
Oh,
this
shit.
family
No,
right now
they are not
occupies
buying what she's
1600 Pennsylvania
selling.
Avenue. We say on this show illegitimately, but there are many people who don't agree with us on that. We're now in the heat, and tomorrow night is a debate, the earliest presidential debate in the history of this republic. And this book's coming out, and you're starting to market it, and this book is quite controversial. If you read this book, this book, the first thing you think of is the Bidens are not good people. Okay?
This is
Do
so
you understand
weird.
fully about
This
how
is
much they're going
fucking
to try to tear
weird.
you apart in
This
this?
is fucking weird. Why is he bullying her?
Probably not, but you know, it's like I've said. I've had when you have a child, you have a purpose. I've dedicated this and the rest of my entire life to her. And you know, I'm an adult. If
It's
it comes down to shredding me,
self-proclaimed
that's
baby
fine.
mama
I
of
didn't write
Hunter
this
who
book to
wrote a
shred them.
book.
I wrote this book to tell
She wrote
my
a book.
story and
So
show
she's
my
just,
daughter an
yeah,
example.
so a former
of,
girlfriend or an affair. I'm not sure what
to
the
instill in her.
full extent of the
What are you
relationship
trying to instill
was.
in her every
Not
day?
an
Tell me
ex-wife,
about
but more casual.
spending time with her. What are you trying to instill with her?
Well, there's one thing, like when she gets in trouble and stuff, or she's not doing something, I'll say, Navy, 3 things. What are they? And she'll say, respectful, kind, and honest. I said, that's right. I'm not raising you any other way. So you better get it together, and she'll know
But
exactly.
at
if
your
she was
peril,
disrespectful, she
at
was
your
unkind,
peril,
or
look
she
at the
wasn't
comments
honest.
because it's
she'll know
really
what that is.
bad.
And that's one way, I'd choose to raise her. But I think
They're
doing
not
this
buying
book
her
isn't
story.
set
Put
out
this on the
as,
bingo card. Fuck yeah.
Anything other than I want her to stand strong, and regardless of what you feel your journey is, stand strong and be yourself. Tell your story and also have forgiveness and have grace for people, because there are some parts of the book where I do have that forgiveness and that grace for her.
Isn't it? That's a good, I mean,
there are times where
hey, you
I
go.
am so mad.
She's got to take care of that
and so
kid.
angry, I don't need to
I
say,
say
what
yes.
I want to do. But, I want her to have
Rachel
that
Matter.
forgiveness and that
Oh,
grace
I have not read
and I
it or
also want
looked
her to
at
be
it. I'm
strong
sorry,
enough to
Julie.
know
I'll
that,
do that.
no
A
matter what,
podcast, I haven't listened to it. I'm so sorry.
tell
I'm
her
not very
story,
good
too.
on
She can always
podcasts, but I will definitely put that
Be
one at the top of the list.
I think that all comes with this book.
I'd like to have something to listen to at night, so
You
that's
said
great.
that
Thank
were
you.
Into this
One night stand in a bathroom.
didn't
Oh, well, that's
fully
cool.
know at the time. I
Hey,
don't
man.
want to put words in your mouth. Didn't know that he was having a relationship
The
with
mother
the grieving
or
widow
friend
of his
of mother.
brother.
I think she's the mom.
But that you're saying
She's
you
the
guys
mom.
were not a couple, and one of the reasons was he had another relationship, and it was that relationship with his brother's widow, correct?
Right.
And broke his family.
Broke his family
think,
up.
I mean, there's been the laptop from hell.
He did?
That has a lot.
I didn't hear that he broke his family up.
It's been the Ashley Biden diary.
Only 3.
that has come
Okay,
out.
cool. I'm going to listen to that
Have
tonight.
you done the due diligence?
Thank you for
Have
that,
you gone through
Julie.
the
Thank you for
laptop
that
from hell? Have you
recommendation.
seen,
Awesome.
The role of the grieving widow and even Joe Biden.
Yeah, look at
and
Julie. You
the text
reminded
messages
everyone.
and that.
Thank
And
you
have
so much.
Have you read the Ashley Biden diary? Have you done the full due diligence on all this?
Oh.
I've not done any of that.
You have not done any of that.
I've not.
Is it not interest you? You don't think it's important, or is it just not something you ever thought of?
Gives me anxiety. I don't know.
Why does it give you anxiety?
Because I don't know. The unknown, it does give you anxiety. And I don't
because
know. I know there's a lot
I might
that
be
people have to
defaming
say about those
someone,
things. I don't know
so
what's true
I
and what
may
isn't.
not
And-
want to
Wouldn't it
say
help
something
if
on
you
air
get rid of the anxiety?
that
We tell people all the time
defames.
here, like on the credit card situation, the tax. You can't put it in the drawer. If you put it in the drawer, the anxiety builds. You have to. It's a process. You have to.
Oh, this is
open the drawer
money
and you have
management
to
with
confront
Steve
it. You have to
Bannon.
use your
Everybody,
agency.
yeah, welcome.
Is the anxiety because you haven't looked
Welcome
into
to
this?
Money
and you're-
Management
are
with
you
your
afraid of what
host,
you'll find,
Steve
and you don't want to do that?
Bannon. Everybody.
It's possible.
It just strikes me as odd. It strikes me as odd that someone that's made her
Yeah, I
daughter
don't
the center
judge
of her life,
what
and is
happens in another
obviously, and you read the
family
book and see
because,
your life and
frankly,
do any
none of
check-ins,
us know what's
you have
happening
not
in
just made her
those
the center of your
families.
life, but you're fully
So it
protective
seems
of
to
her,
me
we're
they've
concerned about her,
resolved
make sure
what
she's
they
raised
needed
the
to
right way.
resolve
When
and
there's
moved on, and I
unlimited
can't.
amount
I
of
think that's
information,
great.
and you've already been to
I
court
wish
to take the
every
guy to court to
family
prove that he was
the
father
healing
and
that they
then to get
need.
some financial support.
That doesn't
There's
change
tremendous
who I'm
information out there,
voting for.
including Garrett Ziegler, who I think testified.
I
Didn't
don't.
Ziegler testify?
I
in
don't.
He was hired by my
It does.
attorneys to
He wanted to
testify, but
say
we
it,
settled
gal. That's
before
what.
it
But he
ever
had done.
came.
He had done
Bannon
the,
needed
he's
to
one of the
say the
experts in Laptop
words,
from Hell.
and he'd
So he's
love
done-
to
and
say
he was
shower, but he's
retained
just
by you,
not
so
there
he
yet.
was a consultant to your side, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
It's
So
ridiculous.
he's got that information, and then the Ashley
Fucking
Biden diary is out
ridiculous.
there. A lot of people have read it. It's all over the place. But you haven't been comfortable enough, confident enough, or didn't think it was a big enough deal to actually go do your own independent
There we go.
research.
Cash at me, hoes. Lolo, let me. Not you
I just
guys.
avoided
I
it,
mean
and I
those
probably
guys.
shouldn't. I probably
Not
should
you
dig into
guys.
it, but,
no,
also,
no.
you see all these things,
Those
and,
guys.
and the way that
those ones.
things
Those
can be
ones.
brought to you that I don't know what's real and what isn't.
Gold digger.
So I don't know,
I thought they
am
meant
I fixing
me.
to read something
Damn.
that isn't real? Is
Right.
this going to put
Yes,
these conspiracies
grief
in
is
my head?
devastating.
I don't know.
Right.
And it doesn't have anything to
Let's
do with
bring
her
in Noel
child.
Frisch for
She
a
wrote a
second.
book.
Noel,
She had a
from the National
baby.
File. Noel, I believe
had a
you're,
baby out
thank
of
you for joining us. I
wedlock and
believe
had to
you're doing a
raise
film
it on
about the
my
Ashley
own.
Biden. Just give me the
So
facts.
it's
She
not
makes a very good
easy.
point.
And
A lot of
frankly,
this stuff
I would
is
have
weaponized
done a
and
lot to make sure my daughter and I did what I needed to. Work like an ass man all the
When people brought
time.
to me years ago, I said, this
Fought
thing can't
for
possibly be true. It's too
child support
radioactive.
when she was like
and we
8
avoided
years
it for
old.
years. Just give me
So,
the facts
yeah,
on
no,
Ashley
I get
Biden's
it.
diary, sir.
Get your fucking hustle on, girl.
Yeah, thanks for having me,
Provide
Steve.
for that baby.
The diary is legit.
That's
It's the big
you
news.
know, whatever. I don't even give a
We knew it was
shit.
legit when we published it. That's
She's
why
making
we
her
published
money
it.
off the
There's
book
a phone
and
call
off of
that
this
became
shit.
public in August of
All right?
2023.
Oh, look at this
Finally,
guy,
we
Noel
knew this
Fritsch.
phone call
I
existed.
can't.
We heard
No.
it. With Ashley
We're
calling
not.
in.
We're not listening to that bullshit. Nope. Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. I don't, you know, this was the same, like, I do, if it's, I'm just not, I don't, and there's whole lawsuits going on about that whole diary. So there's nothing to be concluded from that bullshit. Nothing to be concluded from that. So I don't know. It's just like ridiculous. I don't think the diary, I mean, there's like, the diary is connected to Project Veritas, people. Come on. It's and there, as far as I know, there may or may not be a laptop, but also if you listen to Lev Parnas, he is the one that helped curate it. So I would believe that him over others. And in his words, this was a manufactured, certainly of real things, of a person who was going through a tremendous struggle and managed to take a lot of pictures of it. But it was definitely like a setup and a digging and a curation that led to some other, some fabricated story. So it doesn't prove anything. It doesn't, even if it was a laptop with all of the things that they've said, and we've listened to the hearings, so we know what they've said. And what they've said is that, there's all this bribery and this and that and the other thing. Well, we see how that all turned out. Because if you remember, I was in a dinosaur costume outside the courthouse as Alexander Smirnov got arraigned for lying for years to the FBI on behalf of, oh my God, the Russian government. I mean, an actual court case. Okay? So that's what we're dealing with, and why we don't need to give oxygen to what, if you really want conspiracy theorists, okay, baby, there's your conspiracy theorists right in that Rumble screen. They are the kings, queens, and dukes and duchesses of disinformation. People should go listen to the podcast American PSYOP regarding the former NATO commander's son, Wesley Clark Jr. Yep. It really is. It's a tough listen because it's like the details of him going through his own kind of experiencing a PSYOP. But yeah, it is an excellent. Foreign adversaries target big politicians' kids with the intent to have leverage over political decisions, which makes sense, right? All I hear, yeah, it's just BS. I mean, it's just, I listen to the data, right? Follow the data, media literacy, follow the data, follow it. Love data. Data is amazing. So yeah, we follow the data here. We try to, and certainly it's fun to theorize. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I love to like tease things out and theorize, but hopefully I do as good a job as I can to label when I'm theorizing or when we're quoting something. Typically I'm quoting the curated work of others, so I deference to them. But yeah, also just so you know, tomorrow night is the debate, and there will be a special lounge to watch party for the debate with bingo cards. Yes, coming soon, hopefully this afternoon, to a Twitter and YouTube community post near you. Will be, I think, 4 versions of bingo cards that you can download and whatever, I don't know, however you want to do them, maybe, I don't know. So there will be 4 different bingo cards that you can play from tomorrow night as we experience the first debate, presidential debate. And I believe my broadcast starts at about 5:45 Pacific. I might start a little earlier because I think I'm going to join in on the CNN broadcast and show that. So they're starting at 5:30 Pacific. So I may go live at 5:30. In fact, I probably will. And so join us tomorrow at Real Lolo, and same place that you're here now. But yeah, we'll have some really cool. Gal designed the bingo card shell, and it's gorgeous. It's so beautiful. And then we came up with some category, like squares. And so, yeah, I have some, and so I'm going to create them this afternoon, and I'll put them up on social media so you can see them for yourselves, print them out. I don't know, however you want to do it. I'm not sure how to do it, but it'd be fun. Anyone know if C-SPAN is I would imagine, Scott, I would definitely imagine that they are. And we can have a couple screens up actually, just like we do now. So we can make some choices about what we want to see. Yeah, I can't wait. Tomorrow night will be fun. I know, right? Yeah, send the bingo cards to anyone. This bingo is free. This bingo is completely free. So everyone can participate and just have a lot of fucking fun with it. So that would be good. Yeah. And then, tomorrow morning, of course, they'll be, they will be, hostages. Oh, that's a good one. Easily. That's a good one. J6 hostages. Oh my God. You learned some. Yeah. So C-SPAN is, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. I know it's going to be fun. I mean, because I can't imagine. I cannot watch it without you guys. Oh my God. I cannot. That's not possible. I would freak out. I would jump out of my skin. So no, I can't even watch it if you guys aren't here. So please join us, because otherwise I won't be able to watch it. Yeah, and Gal really designed just the most beautiful card, so I really appreciate her. Her artistic and creative vision is always on point and really cool, so I appreciate it. Good group. Smart friends. We have smart friends, you guys. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Hunter Conviction, yes. Yes. Oh, I have so many easily. It's going to be great. I'm hoping that we can do more than 4 cards, but because the more the better, I think, would be kind of fun. And there's, unfortunately, with this bingo game, there's no prizes. Oh, shit.
Enslaved. Or if the racial and religious minorities like the Uyghurs and the members of the Falun Gong have their organs forcibly removed.
Oh, here we go. All of a sudden they care about Uyghurs.
People,
I love that.
To be as clean as wind-driven snow, as Rush Limbaugh used to put it. The list of corporate hypocrites who cozy up to human rights abusers goes on, but I will not bore you with that right now. If you're going to rely on the goodwill of the corporate left to forego all the green in China, you're going to be waiting a long, long time. But there is a very simple solution: ending the fiat currency system. It's simply too enticing for these companies to not do business in a country whose currency is a pittance compared to the dollar. Author Louis Lierman called being the country with a reserve currency, quote, a curse, because that is exactly what it is. Consumers in foreign countries simply cannot afford.
Are those ladies in mourning behind him?
So bye-bye manufacturing.
Are they mourning someone? I mean, I'm not kidding, actually.
Debt.
Is there a reason they're all wearing black?
And if you wonder why big banks like that,
or are they just sad?
The fiat system, a non-fiat monetary system would level the playing field between all countries and restore manufacturing to the United States. I appreciate the committee's desire to keep us safe from China. However, in all honesty, I'm much more afraid of the United States government. Just look at January 6th. Over 1,450 mostly peaceful protesters have been charged with crimes. The FBI can't help but brag. The government wanted to put Julian Assange behind bars for 175 years for daring to expose government misconduct and the true nature of the United States military involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan, which was not pretty to say the least. The DOJ is attempting to send and
look at him all anti-war now. Oh my goodness! Wow, what happened, girl? Why'd you change?
Steve Bannon, Mark Meadows, John Eastman, Jeff Clark are just 4 of the names targeted by the DOJ due to the crime of supporting
Trump.
The list of people and entities prosecuted
Isn't he
by
from
DOJ,
Arizona?
including obviously
Where's
the
he
former
from? New
president,
Mexico?
is
Arizona?
also one that goes on
Where's
and on.
Gosar
but
from?
I will not bore you again. I'm happy
Oh, but
that
you
the House
are.
leadership decided
That
to
ship
investigate these
sailed,
atrocities
bitch.
against on behalf of the American population who supported Donald Trump by setting up the weaponization subcommittee run out of the Judiciary Committee. And while not dismissing China as a threat, I reiterate,
Not
I'm
dissing
much more
China.
concerned about our own government's desire to imprison those who disagree with them.
This is
and their
my
actions to
China
render the
diss.
First Amendment
This is
a
my
meaningless
China
paper
diss.
memento.
This is my
And I
China
am with a
diss.
country
But
suffering
I'm
from
not
a
dissing
self-imposed
China.
demographic
This is my
catastrophe
Dynachiss.
caused by
China diss.
forced abortions and a
Dynachiss.
one-child policy.
I can't talk.
All this leads me to a simple question.
Okay, forget it.
How are we supposed to fight China when
Gosar
we're
the
becoming
Gosarian is from a cursed
I have a
plane.
question for all of you. In the Twitter files, we learned the FBI pressured Twitter to remove posts from the Hunter Biden laptop
eighth
information
ring
on
of
election
hell.
fraud and COVID-19 and suspend Donald Trump's Twitter account. Has the CCP
You're so
engaged in similar
funny.
censoring activities?
Oh my god, I
Ms.
fucking
Kissel?
love it. Yes. Oh my god, I would not want him to have his hands in my mouth.
Thank you for your question, sir.
That's for fuck's sake, sure.
I don't think that it's accurate to compare the United States, the world's most vigorous democracy, to a totalitarian Marxist-Leninist regime that is committing crimes against humanity.
I
and
think so. I
genocide.
always
I'm
forget,
here
but I think it
today
is
to
Falun
talk
Gong.
about
That's epic
what
times.
I believe to be a nonpartisan issue, which is the extraordinarily serious
Oh my
threat
god, easily. That's
that the United
terrible.
States and American
Ugh.
citizens here and abroad face from the Chinese Communist Party. And I strongly believe.
Thank you, Teresa.
that
I
this
knew
threat
it. This
is
motherfucker. He's got to
differentiated
be
from
an
the threat that we
unindicted
faced
co-conspirator,
during
right?
the
Or did
Cold
they just
War,
not call him?
where they were over there.
Falun
and we
Gong.
were
Thank
over
you,
here.
Oomph. Yep.
This is a far more dangerous and complex threat. Our economies are intertwined, as my witnesses to my left have also articulated. This is unlike anything else we've ever faced. I spoke in my testimony about the gray zone activities that I believe are not adequately recognized and combated by the federal government. And I'm here in particular to talk about CCP influence on the State Department. I also work in the business community. And I'm telling you, directors, CEOs are not aware of these threats. Now, part of the problem is that the Trump administration woke up America and the world to the threat of the CCP. We would not be having this hearing today were it not for the work that we did. The Biden administration has essentially adopted our framework and continued it. I'm grateful for that, but there's far more to do, and we don't have a lot of time. Thank you very much.
I yield back.
Thank you. Chair now recognizes Mr. Lynch from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank the witnesses for your willingness to help the committee with its work. Appreciate that.
It's true. Oh my gosh.
Malinowski, one of the most common weapons
is everybody on
that
vacation?
authoritarian regimes employ when attacking democratic governments around the world is to undermine the very electoral process, the democratic electoral process, by claiming that elections were either rigged or stolen, and that's in order to discourage democratic participation.
Thank you,
number one,
Badger.
but also
Washington
to
Times
undermine
is the Moonies.
the government that is elected through that
Epoch
process.
Times is Falun
And that's
Gong.
happening around the world and largely being
Yeah, your
conducted
tax
by
dollars at work,
both
Scott.
China and Russia. In this country, back in 2022,
Or
after the election,
there's a lot of pooping.
Former President Trump and his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, Kenneth Cheeseborough, Mr. Eastman, and others challenged the results of the 2020 presidential election in this country. They did so in 62 cases in 9 states. They lost all of them. Every single case was either dismissed or dismissed because there were no facts to support the claim, or they were dismissed after the merits were heard. All those attorneys
Yeah, I
have been
wonder
disciplined
who
in some
Rebecca
fashion,
and all those people
or
are.
either that or
I don't think
indicted
that was
or
ever. I mean, I
disbarred,
never heard who they were finally affiliated
and/or are
with, but
currently
maybe you all
appealing
did.
their convictions. Does not the now? Meanwhile, candidate Trump continues to say that, despite losing those 62 cases, continues to say that the elections in the United States were stolen, and seeks to undermine, and some of the members on this committee do the same thing, seek to undermine the democratic process in this country. Doesn't this have the same effect? Isn't this in harmony with the Chinese program and the Russian program to undermine the credibility and integrity of our elections in this country?
It's definitely in harmony. One of the central goals of CCP propaganda, and it's true of the Russians and the Iranians and most of our adversaries, is to convince people around the world that the United States is not, in fact, the democracy that we claim it is. Or even to convince people that democracy itself, the idea of democracy, is a spent force. When I was an Assistant Secretary of State for Human Rights and Democracy arguing with the Chinese government, that this is the argument that they tried to make, not very successfully, and certainly it's a major feature of their propaganda around the world. As I noted in my testimony, it does not help us when American leaders echo exactly the same argument when they say that America has political prisoners, American elections are rigged, American
true,
institutions
Carla.
are corrupt.
Very true. Julie Massachusetts.
Now, Republicans and Democrats, we've always disagreed about policy, and that's fine. That's good. But at least in most of my life, we were united in defending America, in saying that our country has the best institutions, the finest system of government in the world. I think blaming America first is no way to win an argument with the Chinese Communist Party.
Thank you. I just want to add, the U.S. President, former President Donald Trump praised Chinese President Xi Jinping after the ruling Communist Party announced that it was eliminating the two-term limit for the presidency.
You know,
paving the way
no,
for Xi
no one
to
is a
serve
monolith.
indefinitely, according to audio aired
Probably
by
except.
CNN. And this is a quote from former President Trump.
Well, yeah,
He's
that's
now
great.
president for life, and he's great.
I don't know.
And look, he was able to do that.
Certainly
I
better
think it's great. Maybe
than
we'll
us
have to
on
try
that.
to give that a shot someday, meaning electing a leader for life rather than subject to periodic election. Trump went on to praise Xi as a great gentleman and added he's the most powerful Chinese president in 100 years, and said Xi had treated him tremendously well during his visit in November. What does this do about our ability to hold Xi responsible for his oppression and conducting full-spectrum surveillance over the Chinese people?
Right. So, look, at the time former President Trump said those things, other members of his administration, including Secretary Pompeo, were trying to do the right thing. They were standing up to Chinese human rights abuses. But the president of the country is the boss. And when the president says things like that to Xi or about Xi, it undercuts everybody else who's working for him to try to advance American values of freedom and democracy. And besides, it's just kind of bizarre and embarrassing. It sounded like he was envious of Xi Jinping, and that's no place for an American leader to be.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Palmer from Alabama for 5 minutes.
Ouch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a point of clarification before I begin. Is this a hearing about China, or is it about Donald
It's
Trump?
a hearing about China, and we have passed along a number for Trump derangement syndrome to our colleagues. So apparently they haven't started taking classes yet, but it is about China, a very important issue, and the government's failure to respond to the CCP threat.
Well, reclaiming my time, I think that China is a serious enough threat that we need to focus on China, and I will encourage my colleagues to do that. I have watched as China has become the dominant influence, at least economically, and through their debt diplomacy in our own backyard in the Western Hemisphere, and we've done little to nothing to address it.
Not necessarily, because there's, I mean, that there's certainly more scrutiny and transparency, I think. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but I'm saying that we have some pretty specific and serious laws about that. So, again, not saying it doesn't happen, GP, but I don't know. I would have to see more data on that. Because frankly, I think that I feel like that's one of those areas of law that
we have been rather absent
they're
in
particularly,
our own
because
region.
once it gets to criminal court, you know what I mean? Once it gets to court,
Congressman, and
that comes
thank you,
into
Mr. Chair.
play
I
into
agree.
how
This
they
is a
got the
serious threat, and
information.
I'd
I'm
like to
not
focus
standing
on
up
it.
for any
It
government.
also, I don't believe, should
not
be
that
a
way.
partisan issue
I'm
at
just
all,
saying,
as
I
the
don't know
former
if I would make it as general
intimated.
until
This
I
is a threat to
really,
all
just
Americans,
because of the
Republican,
emphasis on that law.
or
But,
otherwise.
yeah.
The good news
and due
is that
process.
the Trump administration,
Republicans
as I
are
said
traitors holding the
previously,
Bible
woke
and
up
wrapped in a flag.
America
Yeah,
and the
absolutely.
world to
Comer
the
always
threat,
says
and we
Massachusetts.
started to take actions across
Massachusetts.
a number of fronts.
But yeah, no,
President
it's
Trump, of
always a
course, was
good
the
point.
first
It's
one to
always good to
identify
be,
the fact that China was
you know,
cheating, on trade, that they were violating our intellectual property.
suspect
and we took action
and
on
kind
that.
of
Under
demanding
Secretary Pompeo,
of the
who I worked
freedoms
for at
that
the State
we
Department, we declared crimes against humanity,
value
and genocide,
so
that China was
highly,
committing these actions
like
against
due
the Uyghurs,
process,
the
et
Hui,
cetera.
and other,
So it's a
people.
good, it's always a good
We
point.
did a number of other important initiatives. We went around the world and we convinced many, many nations to get rid of Huawei from their telecommunications networks. We worked to probe what was going on at the WHO and what happened with COVID, which we now know came from a lab in Wuhan.
And
like
if
the
I may
US
interrupt,
government. Correct. But we also...
if I may interrupt.
Yes, sir.
When the Trump administration took action against China in regard to the spread of COVID, I think my colleagues across the aisle referred to him as a
Yes,
Well,
I
again,
do.
I'd rather this
And
not
the
be
Patriot Act is
partisan
still
hearing because I believe
argued
the threat
so
is
highly.
too
You know, I mean,
grave
that's still
to
an
engage in that
issue.
today.
So it's an interesting conversation.
Dialogue, but I only have a
It's an interesting conversation when you think of it from all the different
and I wanna talk
sides
about
of
China's,
whether it's
debt
crime against
diplomacy.
you
We
or
know
you know what I mean.
Pakistan,
Like I
Kenya,
don't know.
Zambia, and Sri Lanka already.
It's a good place to converse,
Laos, Mongolia,
exchange ideas,
are all under tremendous pressure. We just saw
and
what
get more
happened a couple of days
transparency.
ago in Kenya when the government there is trying to raise taxes just to pay their debt. I think Zambia and Sri Lanka defaulted on their debt, and that
I thought we were
we're
talking
seeing
about
this
China.
happen all over the world. It's not just sub-Saharan Africa, and it's happening in South America as well.
Well, again, the good news is that at least U.S. investors, U.S. businesses are waking up. Look at the numbers of foreign direct investment into China. It's falling off a cliff. And if you go and you talk to our Latin American partners, our African partners, they want to do business with American companies. And I believe that the State Department could play a very constructive role in reaching out to these partners, partnering with U.S. business and saying, okay,
whoa, look at Dr.
where can we
Vaughn.
come
Looks like
in
he needs
and compete and
some
win? Because these nations don't
some
want Chinese
medicine.
workers coming in, taking their jobs. They don't want dirty money floating
I
around
know.
their economy.
She shut
and
him
their
down
system
and he
further
stumbled.
corrupted. They want to do business with us.
This is weird.
So there's a
This is
lot
a weird
of room
hearing.
here for the U.S. State Department to play a positive role. My fear, Congressman, is that we don't have the time that we had during the Cold War. We had decades to argue amongst ourselves, Republicans and Democrats, about the best way, right, to combat the Soviet threat. I don't believe that we have that time with Communist China today, and that's, again, why I'm so glad that Congress is taking this threat seriously and having these hearings. We need to talk about it. We need to talk about their military buildup in particular.
But I mean, it's a
There are
serious
experts on this
question.
panel.
Why not have a hearing about Russia? I don't get it. I mean, I understand some of the political reasons, I guess.
Their Navy and other military assets, how we have been lackadaisical in protecting our intellectual property. And,
yeah,
and
it's a
just
slap in
have
the
not
Republican
taken seriously
face.
The China threat. And again, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to take a long, hard look at what's happening in our own hemisphere, and that's something that I'm working on as a Western Hemisphere alliance, because China, contrary to what some of my colleagues think about other issues, China is the existential threat, and I think businesses are waking up to that.
I.e., Mr. Putin, Mr. Putin, I made sure that today I did a lot of discussion around
here.
This.
I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to address the rest of you, and Tom, good to see you. But this is the existential threat facing our country, and I yield back.
Very good.
Everybody
Chair
sounds
now recognizes
asleep.
Ms. Brown from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a member of the Select Committee on the Strategic Competition between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party, I have spent much of this Congress analyzing and evaluating the threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party's rising influence. Democrats and Republicans are clear-eyed about the critical ways in which we need to advance our national interests, politically, economically, and from a security standpoint, to be able to compete with the People's Republic of China on the world stage. The policies passed by House Democrats last Congress and implemented by the Biden-Harris administration are already working
thank you,
to do
Mindy.
just
Barb
that,
McQuaid said no more
bringing
SCOTUS
tens
decisions
of
today.
thousands of good-paying manufacturing and
GP, I think
technology
Australia's
sector
perception
jobs
of China
back
is
to the
very
United
different than the
States.
U.S.
This is in
Absolutely.
part
They're
due
leading
to
the world in great
legislation
energy and oil
passed under
production is at an
Democratic
all-time
leadership,
high
like
under
the CHIPS
Biden.
and Science Act.
No, I know what
CHIPS and
you're
Science is an
saying.
investment
It
in
is a
American
different
labor,
perspective.
the American workforce,
And that's why
and our
I'm
economy,
glad
and
to have
ultimately
it.
our national security. In just one specific instance, American semiconductor jobs are growing rapidly following decades of decline. This is because the CHIPS Act makes a $50 billion investment in the American semiconductor industry and creates an unprecedented tax credit for investments. And that's only the start. As a result of this federal kickstart, the American private sector is matching and surpassing government funding, announcing more than $160 billion in their own investment in semiconductor and other electronics manufacturing. Welcome back, Mr.
Yes, I got to think of the
Malinowski.
way some
I
of
have
them
a couple
say it.
questions for you. How
Liquid
is the CHIPS
gold.
and Science Act working to bring jobs back to American communities, which have seen declines in manufacturing opportunities in the past?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Brown. I think you put it very, very well. I mean, we are reinvesting in America. We're reinvesting in American manufacturing. When I was first running for Congress, most people thought we would never become the manufacturing country that we used to be, and we are becoming that country again. This is obviously good for American workers. It's good for our economy, but in the context of this hearing, we have to consider how much it helps us in the strategic competition with China. And keep in mind, in addition to the CHIPS Act,
Oil,
which is
that
investing in
is
semiconductor manufacturing in the
Texas.
United States,
Wait.
the Biden administration has imposed devastatingly tough restrictions on the export of microchip technology to China, not just from the United States, but enlisting countries like Japan and the Netherlands, which are the main manufacturers of the machines that make high-end microchips, semiconductors. And between the positive investments and the sanctions, if you will, the United States is racing ahead and China is falling behind. As I mentioned in my opening testimony, China explicitly, the Chinese government explicitly opposed passage of the CHIPS Act by the U.S. Congress for all of those reasons. They understand what their national interests are, and I think there are lessons for us in that about how we should invest in our country in the future. Thank you.
No, thank you. So it's like you were in my mind. In addition to the investments in semiconductors that the President Biden has also made in directing that increase on tariffs, which you kind of touched on.
Oh, they
on
were
semiconductors
definitely
and certain
Beverly
imports
Hills,
like EVs,
not
electric
adjacent,
vehicles,
not under the
steel and
405.
aluminum and medical supplies. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how these tariffs benefit American manufacturers, our economy, and strengthen our national security?
Yeah, so like on EVs, for example, I always think about this. Sure, it's an environmental issue, but it's an economic security issue. This is the industry of the future. People around the world are going to want to electrify transportation.
Yeah, I'm going to use
C-SPAN,
C-SPAN, Marissa. Are you excited about it? It's national interest.
We are
and I'm a news program. Oh, are you mad? Are you mad about it? Do you not want people to see the debate?
The Inflation Reduction Act.
Is that what you want, Marissa? Is that what you want? With the baby? Is the baby going to cry about it?
Are you gonna
and are urging the European Union impose its own tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles. And if anybody wonders where China stands on the Inflation Reduction Act, they are currently suing the United States in the World Trade Organization to try to take down those EV policies. So whatever we may think of it, it's absolutely clear where China stands. They want us to stop doing this.
Die mad. Wah, wah.
Thank you again. These strategic
see,
tariffs
how do we
directed by
do
the
this?
president are
Let's
helping to
see.
combat the unfair trade practices of the Chinese Communist Party. They are a win for American workers and manufacturers, bringing even more jobs, opportunities, and security back to the United States. President Biden knows what so many of us in Ohio and other manufacturing states know. Bringing jobs, opportunities, and technology back to the United States is the best way for us to compete economically with the Chinese Communist Party. In doing so, we are supporting manufacturers, large and small, lifting
the
communities
robots
out
did
of
it.
poverty
The
and
robots did
strengthening
it.
our
How's the
national
COVID? This one's
security.
boring?
Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, great. We're going to switch because that's all I needed to hear.
Recognize the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Perry, for 5 minutes for his questions.
Womp. All right, let's go over here.
Back to, well, it's in my submission, and it was the second slide I provided.
All right.
And it showed the difference between, keep going, if you keep going, two more, one more.
What?
Thank you.
Oh, it's a
so
slide.
You can see on the left side, these
All
are
right,
the top
cool.
5 selling drugs
Great.
that Pfizer has according
Love
to
you
one
guys.
publication. And you
But
could
there's
see 4 of
Scotty
them are drugs,
Perry.
one's a vaccine.
Here,
You can
we'll
see the
just-
difference
we're just gonna
between
get
the
rid of
safety
him.
follow-up of the drugs versus the one vaccine on that chart. And then you could see the safety follow-up and the control used for the vaccines given in the first 6 months of life 3 times each.
No, bitch.
The primary way we assure safety in this country is market forces, economic
go.
interests, corporations. That has worked very
There you
well.
go.
But the only product I'm aware of where we have gutted that market force that assures safety is for vaccines to this degree.
I just poked myself in the
The
eye.
second, far weaker way that we assure safety is through regulators. And in this instance, unfortunately, regulators are structurally conflicted. When there is an agency that's responsible for promoting a product and for safety, we separate that. We do that with transportation, DOT maintenance, we do that with nuclear energy. We don't do that with vaccines. Safety and promotion are both in HHS, the same department. Not only that, HHS is responsible for defending against all claims of vaccine injury in the vaccine compensation program. You can't sue for a vaccine injury. You just sue the federal government. You sue the federal health authorities. And that creates an incredible conflict. This is the only product I'm aware of where the government defends the company, the product, against the consumer versus the other way around. What is the result? I'll go super quick. The result that you can see it in action, I'll just a few examples.
Might as well have
when
fun.
When they did the clinical trial for COVID-19 vaccines, they did a statistical comparison when they compared the rate of infection to get the 95% efficacy. About 100 people in the vaccinated group, in the placebo group had symptoms, about 7 or so in the vaccinated group. They said it's 95% efficacious. But
what's the matter,
when it came to
fake
deaths
Al
in the COVID-19 trial, there were 21
Did you
deaths
get
in the
blocked,
vaccinated group.
you stupid
17
shit?
deaths in the placebo group. Then they didn't do a statistical comparison. They injected bias. They reviewed, let the pharma company, Pfizer,
You
review every one
stupid
of those.
ass. You
Also,
got
our
blocked
client,
by
Matty
the
DeGarry,
motherfucking
only
block word list,
1,100
bitch.
or so
Block
participants
word
in the 12
list,
15 clinical
bitch.
trial.
That's not
She's in a
Al
wheelchair.
Munson. It's a
She had
fake Al
feeding tube
Munson. It's
after she
probably
got
like,
the
I don't even
second
know
shot of Pfizer's
who.
vaccine in the trial.
It's
Pfizer
probably, I don't
reported
even
to
know.
the FDA as functional
They're
abdominal
all
pain that
coming
she had
in
tummy ache.
now.
When we told Pfizer about it,
Oops.
excuse me, when we told the FDA about it,
You did it
and they finally actually
again.
listened, it took numerous
You
letters.
tried to
They shrugged
outsmart
and whitewashed it.
the
Instead of giving
original
Pfizer an
troll.
incredibly hard time for giving
Oh,
them false
baby,
information.
baby,
There's
you
data.
should
The CDC
troll
had a
your
preset method by which they were
mom.
going to do
That
signal detection
woman's a
called PRR. Well, when we finally got the PRR
bitch.
data, it
I
showed
know
incredible
I
signals.
met her
So what did the
yesterday.
CDC do? It said we're not going to rely on that anymore. Instead, we're going to rely
I
on
love
something
this.
the FDA does
I
called
love
empirical
it.
Bayesian analysis, EB analysis.
Raise
Well, we
the
asked
algo.
FDA for that data. They refused to give it.
Thirsty
One federal lawsuit
cunts.
trying to get it. VSafe is the CDC's premier safety system.
You
for vaccines,
thought you could
COVID-19
out-troll
vaccines.
the
They fought us for 2 years
original troll.
in federal court. We finally got that data. And that system
You're
of 10
not
million individuals.
that
and I will
intelligent.
stop. I will yield, and I will
I know.
just end by saying
Sorry,
that
I can't. I'm sorry.
I
You bring it. You
submit
bring
that
out the best in me.
in
Oh, they're
looking at the
trying
forest
again.
to solve a lot of the ills that plague what we're going to talk about today is we need to restore liability back to the
Naughty.
manufacturers.
You're
and
so
they pay those who will be
naughty.
accountable for the injuries from their vaccine products. Thank you.
It's trolls. They're trying to be really cute, but unfortunately, my blocked word list doesn't allow that stuff.
Chairman Massey, Ranking Member Correa, and distinguished members of the subcommittee.
I don't know
thank you
who
for
it
the
is.
opportunity
It's
to
probably
testify.
one of the thirsty
I'm a pediatric
bitches.
and adult infectious disease
It's probably
physician,
someone
or
who's
IDD.
gone through a lot of
I worked for
pain.
countless hours caring for hospitalized children.
They had a
and
lot of
severely ill with
pain. I don't
COVID-19,
know who it
as well
is.
as
I don't
working
give a
on
shit.
healthcare safety
You know what they're
and
doing?
advising
Wasting their morning trolling
Like all
me.
healthcare workers, I saw way too
How
much tragedy and
fucking
heartbreak.
weird is that? Here, what we can do, we can even do this. Watch me, watch me. Watch me do this.
COVID-19 vaccines are safe and effective in greatly
Watch
reducing the
me.
risk of serious illness,
Oh, watch me,
hospitalization, and
watch
death
me,
from the
watch
virus.
me.
They also reduce the
Watch
risk of long
me.
COVID and multi-system
Watch me.
inflammatory syndrome, or MISC, which is a very serious and potentially lethal complication that affects children after infection.
Yeah.
COVID-19 vaccines are safe and effective. By reducing
I don't know what they are.
COVID-19 hospitalizations and protecting healthcare
Doesn't
workers,
matter.
the vaccines help preserve our health system's capacity to care for patients.
It doesn't
During
matter
surges of cases and
anyway.
hospitalizations,
Let me refresh this.
patients died in part because our healthcare workforce was overwhelmed. There were simply not enough providers to meet the extraordinary demands, and workforce shortages only became worse when any of us became ill. The COVID-19 vaccines were studied in large multi-center clinical trials and rigorously evaluated by the FDA,
Thanks.
CDC, and both agencies'
I know.
independent
I just think they're
advisory
funny.
bodies before being rolled out through authorization.
Yes. And they
Every
waste their
medical
time
product
doing
carries
this.
some degree of
It's kind of
risk, and
stupid
so
if
it
you
is for
if you do the
vaccines.
math on it.
But compared to
It's
other
kinda
medical
stupid.
products, vaccines are exceedingly safe.
But it's a nice try.
Health problems do occur. And unlike
It's all
what
right.
Mr.
They
Siri said,
went
there's
through a lot of
robust
pain.
system for overlapping tools to
They went through a
investigate
lot of
safety
pain in
that
their
continues
lives, so we
the
should
entire
feel
lifespan
sorry
of
for
the
them.
vaccine long after
It's true.
review by the FDA.
It's true.
Multiple careful investigations
It's
have
that
identified some
I'm
issues
struggling with my
consistently found that
what's
serious
my
adverse events
what's my
associated with COVID
ideological
vaccination are uncommon
God.
and greatly
You guys
outweighed
are
by the
so
huge benefits of these
ridiculous.
vaccines. In September 2021, the FDA
My goodness,
expanded the US
Jesus. You guys
COVID-19
are really
vaccines
too
to
much.
include a booster for certain populations at
I
high risk
know.
of
I
developing
guess
severe
you're going to
illness.
be this
Data
way.
were clear that the boosters were safe,
Oh, wait, that's
provided
not what I want.
enhanced immune
Let's do
response,
that one.
and at that point, it was clear
There
that the
we go.
original two-dose vaccine's protection waned over
Flamingo weeds.
It was a challenging decision to make in the fall of 2021.
I think I know who it is.
However, that winter, the Omicron
And I do really pity them. I feel
swept
bad. I
across
feel
the
bad.
country.
They've been through a lot.
Hospitals were
They've been
overwhelmed,
through a
and
lot.
for about 8 weeks, more than 20,000
Yeah.
Americans died.
They've been
every
through a
week
lot.
of COVID-19.
Yeah.
Without the boosters, that death toll could have been higher.
But
benefits
thanks for
of vaccines
reminding
for
me
COVID and
other
many
things
other
I need to put in the
infectious diseases are
banned
tremendous.
word list. Thank you.
Commonwealth Fund
Because I
estimated
kind of got you with the
that
first
COVID
one, but I
vaccines
forgot
saved
about the
lives
second
of
one because you guys are
3.5
such
million
fucking
Americans.
bigots
CDC
in real
estimates that
life
vaccination of children born between
that
1994
you have to use those
and
words.
2021 in the
I
US
feel
will
sorry
have
for
prevented
you.
472 million illnesses, helped avoid
I'm
over
not a
1
bigot.
million
You
deaths,
are.
and saved nearly
That's weird.
$2.2 trillion.
It's weird. Especially
Unfortunately,
since you
the
claim to be
increasing
something
spread of
else.
Vaccine misinformation and disinformation
Yeah, look it up.
is a driver of increased vaccine hesitancy. And in 2019, the
I
World
am
Health
the
Organization
troll.
identified vaccine hesitancy as one of the top 10 threats to human health. An uptake of vaccines for respiratory disease among adults has lagged in recent years, due in part to vaccine
I think that means I
hesitancy fueled
win.
by this misinformation.
I think I win by
Inadequate
default.
Vaccine uptake for these viruses leads to higher
Sorry,
rates
you're
of
just showing your whole
hospitalization
ass.
and death.
Ooh,
In the winter,
ouch.
This
That must
past
hurt.
Winter, 2,000 to 2,500
Internalized
people
homophobia.
died
That's exactly what it
due to
is.
COVID-19. 25,000 deaths occurred over the winter due to flu, and 178 children died of influenza.
I'm
Similarly,
about to
rates
use
of
your real
routine child
name. You
immunizations
understand
are
I'm about to
dropping.
use your
In
real
12
name?
states, measles vaccine coverage is now
You
critically
stupid
low
ass.
at below 90%. The
Oh, there we
consequence
go.
of
We'll do
inadequate
that.
vaccination rates are serious. So far in 2024,
Sorry, everyone.
US has
Really
seen 151
apologize that
measles
there are people
cases
in the
compared
world that
only
want to see me
58 in
fail.
2023. And measles, for those who
I'm
haven't
real
seen
sorry
it, is a
about that.
severe disease
In
and
fact, we're just going to
incredibly
leave the chat
contagious.
off
It
so
kills
they
about
think
1
they
in every
won something,
1,000
but I
children
don't
or
think
pregnant
anyone
women
really
who
cares.
contract it, and it causes serious disability.
But we'll
in
see
another
if they
1 to
have to
2
go
per
get their
1,000.
juice box. Oh my God. It's definitely all the, it's definitely one person.
Single introduction of measles. We must take steps to increase vaccine confidence and
Oh,
uptake
I think I
by
know
funding
who it is,
research,
butterflies.
and strategies to address vaccine hesitancy.
It's okay.
To continue
The
to
file
monitor
builds.
safety, to
It
improve
builds.
communication, and improve vaccine coverage for vaccines.
No, actually,
We
it
need to
doesn't.
recruit
I don't
more
have
physicians,
anything.
particularly
I
ID
don't
physicians with
give a
expertise
shit.
on vaccines and
I have a
vaccine
life.
preventable diseases. The single greatest source of information for
Thanks for
patients in
raising the
making these
algo.
decisions is their physician or healthcare provider.
Make sure you share it.
Unfortunately, nearly 80% of U.S. counties
Paris
don't
Hilton
have a
is
single
testifying
ID
on
physician,
children?
and because of high
She
medical
just- she
student
had a
debt
baby.
and low
She just had a
reimbursement
baby.
rates, we are not recruiting enough into the
All
specialty.
right.
IDSA
Way to
welcomes the
go.
opportunity to work with you. Thank you.
I think I have
Thank you,
3
Dr.
letters.
Pavia. The
I think
committee
I
will
need to
now
add one
proceed under
more,
the 5-minute rule with questions.
which I can
The
do
chair
that. Actually, I
recognizes
could do
the
that right
gentleman
now.
From Oregon for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a little curious, Dr. Kraus, about the timeline on and the hurry you talk about in your testimony. Do I have this right that the vaccine had been approved for emergency
It's
use, if you
stupid
will,
combined
in
with
December of
people who don't like
2020,
Jim Stewartson.
and then we go
That's what
around
it is, Max.
into
This is about
roughly,
Jim Stewartson and me.
Was it May? Yeah, May 16th.
That's
when
what it
the
is.
license application from Pfizer came in. For,
Yeah, Scott, as a gay man, this shit doesn't affect me any longer. There will always be bigots. I apologize, Scott, though, because these people are so fucking bigoted, and they claim publicly not to be, which is hilarious, because the receipts are crazy.
Is my understanding correct that we had some...
Enough of them. They've raised the algo, and that's what we...
Because when President Biden stepped up in front of the nation in September, after the rush stop...
You know, I kind of wonder, is that Queenie? I mean, I don't know. It could be a few people. Hold on, let me just fix this one thing.
I don't see them in your report. I'm just curious.
It's a person that's really hurt. They got really hurt in their lives, and now they're taking it out on everyone else.
On you,
whatever.
And eventually
it is sickening. Well, but they're the ones who are sick.
Hurry up and get this done. And yet, how many people had already been vaccinated?
So I don't know the exact numbers, and so I can't dispute your calculation, but certainly a large number of people had already been vaccinated because the vaccine was made available under emergency use authorization, as you say, starting in December of 2020.
The president.
There we go. I added a few more. This is good, actually. It's very helpful. Very, very helpful. Very helpful.
The forced.
It's all good,
hurried,
folks.
the accelerated, whatever the right word for it is. What word would you
That means
use
we're doing something. That means we're making a difference, bitches. Yeah, motherfuckers, making a difference out here in the community. Thank you, GP, my love.
Process, as,
I apologize.
Mr. Correa or Mr. Lander pointed out.
That all these people are so very, very terrible.
Thoroughly evaluated the vaccine for licensure in the end. The question, obviously, was more one of what did the leadership of FDA want and what was it possible to promise them. And so the leadership of FDA requested that the vaccine, that the office leadership, Dr. Gruber and I, provide them with a date by which we were certain that we could complete the review.
And you did, and it was then.
I got you.
They didn't accept
I got you, my
they wanted
loves.
it more quickly than the date that you suggested.
I got
Even though
you.
the date you suggested was about half of the
Ain't
normal 6
no
months required.
stopping us now.
They initially actually accepted a
We're
date that
on the
was beyond
move.
that, and then they also initially accepted the September 15th date, and then they came back and said, well, actually, we would like this to be sped up
us
even more.
now.
You suggest in your
We're on the
testimony
move.
that there was some use of the term mandate in those discussions.
Ain't no stopping us now. One of the aliases they used was a Canadian chud, so I'm starting to think it might be someone else. I love this. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to give them
As
attention.
well as concern that
Yes,
there would
it's
be
fine. It's good now.
increased number of
It's coming
cases in
back.
the fall is reasons why the licensure should be sped up.
Yet that's not what really, it appears that the president was concerned about President Biden in September 11th in his remarks.
Thank
It
you,
appears that he was
Paul
more concerned
J.
about the
Appreciate
economy.
you.
He wasn't concerned about anything beyond that. He was saying, if we don't get everybody vaccinated, my economy may not be in the shape that I want it. And therefore, let's mandate it and force it upon those 80 million recalcitrant folk that don't want to take this vaccine. And that will get the economy back in shape. I don't have to worry about my reelection or whatever. I'm adding words that he didn't say. What I'm saying is
Yes,
he did
you
refer
are.
to the economy.
Wow, you're adding a
And
lot
so
of
I'm just
words
trying
he
to get
didn't
at
say.
what was the
You're
reason for
adding
the
like
mandate when we
90%
already
of
had
the
this
words you
massive
said
amount
are
of
not
people
what he
vaccinated?
said.
That's the question.
And of course,
That's
the
really
vaccine
it.
was still available to everybody who wanted it. So I can't speculate as to what the politicians were thinking, but I do agree that if one looks at all the evidence, there was some significant circumstantial evidence that a desire to implement mandates likely had something to do with the speeding
Yes,
up of
Julie,
time.
Jim
It seems
is
to me that
cool and
we have those
smart
review
and
times
obviously
for a
gets under
reason,
the
and it
skin of
appears to
some
me that they
very,
were,
very nasty
not
people. So
applied
I don't
here, and
know.
there was
I'm going to go with
reason for
the
folks to be concerned about the
anti-Nazi
process.
guy.
That's why I'm happy for the hearing
I'm going to go
today.
with the guy that doesn't
and
think
perhaps
Fred
we can
Brennan is a hero.
suggest to the folks on the
Okay,
other side
I
of the
want
aisle
that
look
guy.
into
I don't
what
want the
actually
other
happened
guy.
makes sense. So we rebuild the trust that's necessary for this important part of
No,
our
just
lives.
the two rulings today, Lee.
Thank you, gentleman from Oregon.
Just the
I now
two
recognize the
rulings.
ranking member from California for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Drs. Pravia and Dr. Kraus. Have a letter in front of me
hesitator.
from
That's a
group
good
of
one,
people
Jim.
advocating
Reluctant
against
potato.
COVID-19 mandate vaccine. I want to read a few statements from this letter that are a bit more medically nuanced and ask you, if you can, to answer either yes or no if you agree with these statements. I'm going to start out with Dr. Pavia. First statement, the vaccines are injuring and killing historically large number of people.
That's patently untrue.
The vaccines reduce the health of all vaccinated populations.
No evidence of that.
There you go.
Antibody
Get a little
dependent
Lindell in the
enhancements, or
morning.
ADE, from the vaccines could cost millions of deaths.
That statement's untrue and was evaluated as a potential adverse event during the studies. Dr. Kraus could speak to that.
The risks of children dying from COVID is still
I feel like I got
statistically
some
zero.
information that helps me
Makes my blood
understand some
boil, having
connections a
seen
little more,
children
but I'm
die.
not sure yet.
1,700 children died of COVID, and that's probably an underestimate.
Dr. Kraus, I'm going to ask you the same questions. First statement, the vaccines are injuring and killing a historically large number of people. Yes, no?
I would say no, without knowing what historically large means.
Thank you.
It's the dumbest
The vaccines
thing.
reduce the
That's
health
the
of all
stupidest
vaccinated
thing
populations.
I've ever heard. But that's what they can do. They can only go for the stupid.
Antibody-dependent
Yeah, I
enhancement,
thought everybody
or
needs a little
ADE,
Lindell
from
fix.
the vaccine could cost millions of deaths.
That was a concern early in the development of the vaccines, but that was addressed.
Would you buy a
with a
pillow
number
from
of
Paul
different
Revere
studies,
if you
so I would
could?
say
That's
no.
what Masada says in the
Finally,
chat.
the risk of children dying from COVID is still statistically zero.
And there, of course, as Dr. Pavia points out, the answer to that is also no.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let me follow up another question.
If
Dr.
you know,
Pavia,
you
talked
know,
about
right? Like,
the
come
devastating
on.
consequences of
I
misinformation
feel like I found the only
on
adults
vaccines.
on the internet.
We've declared that measles was eradicated in the year 2000, but now we have had several outbreaks
That
of
hair
measles
color
across
is
the
so
country,
stunning.
including
I love
in my
her hair
district,
color
my
so
hometown
much.
of Anaheim,
I
California.
want to know who her
The
colorist
first
is.
reported case was an unvaccinated child, but as a result, 131 Californians were infected and 16 people in other states, as well as 160 people in Canada, almost all unvaccinated. I am concerned that people do not understand how serious measles cases are, and disinformation campaigns impact so many people, including threatening pregnant women and infants. Can you comment?
The parents I speak to only want good information. They're trying to make the best decision, but they're confused and misled by huge amounts of information on the internet. If they have a chance to speak to their provider, they usually will make the decision to vaccinate their children. Unfortunately, what we're seeing now is that confusion often causes decision paralysis for parents, and that is making their children vulnerable to measles.
Confusion resulting because misinformation,
I know, Jim.
conflicting information.
I don't
We
know
all wanna
what's
do the
going on
best
in
we
that
can
district.
for our children, for our families. They get conflicting information, so essentially you
I
have
wonder if there was any
paralysis
fun
when
in
it comes to
business.
these medical decisions.
You essentially have the problem
Election-
of false
election
equivalency.
integrity.
When you read something on Facebook, you
I
don't
demand a
know that
recount.
is different than well-run studies that involved hundreds of thousands of children. And so parents are understandably misled. Sometimes that misleading is actually intentional.
I just want to say thank you
Why
guys
would
for
that
being
be
here. You're the
intentional
best. I
misleading?
really appreciate you. And
Because there
I
are
don't say it
people who
often
believe
enough, so I'm
passionately
just telling you.
that
I really
vaccines
appreciate you
are
hanging in there.
Bad, that they're dangerous. And
We
that
go
they're
through
part of
some
a
nasty
conspiracy
shit
to make money
sometimes.
for
Not
Big
all the
Pharma.
time, though. It's pretty boring most of the time, really. I don't-
Dr. Pavia, there's been a lot
I
of
can't
discussion
complain,
about the
really.
COVID-19 vaccines and boosters. I saw firsthand the fear and angst among doctors and patients.
Oh, well, that's the
before the
problem,
vaccines
Pep.
arrived.
Oh, my God. Thanks for bringing
clear
that.
to
To
me
be
that
fair,
these
there were
vaccines are
5
safe
other
and
candidates
effective
that split up the
and
votes
have
against
saved
her.
many American lives. Do you believe vaccines save lives?
Absolutely.
Do you think that the government recommendations for vaccines were accurate and helped bring normal state of being in our lives?
The availability of vaccines helped get people back to work. It helped them survive the infection. It helped our economy get back on track. It was incredibly important.
Can you tell us about your experience with COVID, especially during the winter of 2021, and how that impacted the medical profession and your patients?
The winter of 21-22 is when the Omicron wave surged, and it really
She did,
overwhelmed
Cam.
an exhausted workforce.
She did. The
It
primary.
caused,
Primary.
close to
It's just a
record levels
primary.
of hospitalization and deaths.
Well,
And at
again,
that
split
point, we had a
between 5
decimated and
candidates, so
exhausted
that's pretty bad.
workforce. So we
That's
saw
a good
patients dying of
good way to get her to
treatable
win.
illnesses like heart attacks.
Yeah,
because
just
we
a
couldn't
primary.
Get to them. We saw our adult hospital having to build an extra 50-bed.
She did. She switched
emergency
districts.
ICU to take the overflow. It was very helpful that our healthcare providers had gotten an additional dose of vaccine and felt more.
I think she has a strong Democratic contender in the old district, too. That's one of the reasons, but I could be wrong. But I think there is a person who's running
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from California
who's pretty
is now
strong
recognized for
in
five
her
minutes.
old
Chairman,
district.
I'm going to continue right where my colleague from California, Mr. Correa, left off. Dr. Kraus, is it fair to say that the Operation Warp Speed
Look at
led
that. Potential
to
Trump running mates. Charlie Kirk show.
a potential solution,
Good old
one
Doug
that
Burgum,
was
money man,
under a
and
fairly unique
J.D. Vance
FDA
and Marco Rubio.
provisional license, a success in that it gave at least something.
But
for
apparently
the
Vivek
most
is coming to the
vulnerable who had
debate.
nothing before that.
What does it mean?
Yes, it was an enormous success.
And you'd all agree with that. No one's disagreeing. So we don't have a problem with the speed, the development, the funding, all the things that responded to this pandemic. But let's go a little further. We already heard earlier about basically rushing to get full approval. Was that inherently a shortcut?
You are forgiven,
that
of course,
can
GP. You're
lead
perfect.
To side effects not being fully
Democrat running
understood
for her
in
old
any
position
medicine,
did an
not
ad
just
from this seat.
in
Yes,
this
that
one.
guy.
Is that
I
fair
love
to say?
him.
Would all of you
I love
agree
him. Yes.
that
Project 2025.
rushing final
2025 for the
approval
bingo
is
card. You're
always a
right,
different
easily.
question
You're on
than
it.
getting an early drug.
I love
I'm one
it.
of the people that helped
Yes.
push
Tomorrow
for,
night we're doing the
Right to
debate.
Try,
We'll have a special
because I believe
Lolo's
strongly
Lounge,
that
and we'll
even
be
when something
issuing
has
out
some unknown
4
risk,
different bingo
those who are
cards
most
that you'll
going to
be able to
affected
use
without
for
it
free
have a right to take
as you
that
watch
risk.
the debate. So
I'm
print
seeing
out
only
your
yeses.
bingo
So,
cards
again, I
later
wanna-
tonight
Yes.
Perhaps
from any of my social media. Okay? They'll be up tonight, designed by Gal
I'll come
Suburban,
back to you on that.
and then a collab.
Because Mr. Carrera did
A
such
Lolo
a good job,
Gal
I don't want
collab.
to eliminate the fact that we do
We'll have
need
bingo cards, and you can
access
play
to
along. There's no
these, that many of
prizes,
the,
as usual. God damn it.
Vaccines have
Maybe
in fact
someday.
eradicated or virtually
Let's get a sponsor, and then we'll get prizes.
terrible
Okay?
diseases.
That's not,
But
you
isn't
know,
it
that's a
true
collective
that
effort, not
months
just me.
and months and months
No, I'm just
after
kidding.
every member of
I'm
the
totally
military
kidding.
was
It's totally on
mandated
me.
to take this
And I don't want a
vaccine,
sponsor.
months and months after
I don't
we
want
were
someone
told
telling me what I can
that
do and
this
what I
would
can't
stop
do.
the spread, months and
Oh,
months
master
after
debater.
we were actually
Yeah.
discharging
No, that's
active
going to
duty
be
military
fun. So
personnel
please come
who,
and
for
play
religious
bingo with us
reasons,
tomorrow night
objected
as we watch the debate
that
together
Pfizer's
on this
chief
channel, wherever
sat
you
in
get your
Europe and when
Lolo's
asked,
Lounge.
Does this stop the spread? Does it create this immunity from receiving it? He said, no, we never tested for that. Does anyone disagree with that being a fact?
I think that's partially correct. The vaccines decrease the risk of being infected less so than they do the risk of being hospitalized. If you're not infected, you can't spread. There are transmission studies that showed a decrease in transmission.
Right,
but it
A
didn't
prize is you don't
prevent
poke your
transmission
eyes
on a
out
mass
watching
level.
it or hearing it at home
This
alone.
statement shocked a lot of people who, as was intended, had developed a trust in this vaccine, a trust in the FDA. Isn't there one thing that we can all agree on, is that we need to make sure that we don't take shortcuts into a final approval that, for example, cause people in the administration and at the FDA and Dr. Fauci to make statements that,
Oh my
in
God,
retrospect,
GP, apparently we're going to need a lot of juice boxes. Jesus, we're going to have tears all over the
Doctor,
place.
You kindly said
Judge Cannon's pro-Trump
if it
trickery is
reduces
about
the
to get
side
even more
effects, it
shameless.
might
Oh, shit.
and probably
Yeah,
does
we'll be very
somewhat
stoned for
reduce
it.
the
Hello,
transmission.
100%.
It doesn't stop you from getting it.
Charlie
so it
doesn't have
stop you from transmitting.
whatchamacallit,
It does stop you from getting it,
captions,
but over time,
which is
that
probably a
protection
blessing.
wanes and eventually
We just get to look at
becomes
his
zero,
forehead,
and the
his
virus
oddly shaped
continues to
head.
change.
Well, let me just
it's
challenge
not
you
correct
for
that it absolutely
let me
does
challenge
not
you for a
prevent
moment on
infection.
this. How many shots has the President of the United States had? If I'm correct, he's had at least 5 COVID shots.
I will take your word for it. I'm not his physician.
And a man who never gets out of the office practically has had COVID like 5 times.
Whoa, okay,
I mean,
what the hell's going on?
high-profile people who
Sir,
have taken
I'm going
all
to
the
say
shots,
point of
including
order.
the boosters, and they've
Decorum?
demonstrated
Where's the
that they
decorum?
keep getting it. Doctor,
Where's the
would you-
decorum?
Am I inaccurate?
Hello?
Because I just
Where's the
follow
decorum?
the president has it, his key staff has it,
Right?
this person has it.
He gets out. He's
there
out all the
does seem
time.
to be
the fuck?
a belief that it's
I know,
stopped
Mr. Potato
when
Head.
Pfizer says it
Public
doesn't,
education has
and
never
now
been more
people are
important.
saying,
How do
well,
people not
it
understand? Oh my God,
immeasurably
come on now,
reduces.
Cam.
We can't quantify exactly how much.
But you're
we're
right.
gonna
We even
assert that it
saved
does.
public
Is that
education,
fair to
too.
be what's going on?
Daryl Ice is an idiot. He was born an idiot. He was this old when I was a kid. Okay. Daryl Issa has not aged since I was a child, and I'm 60.
Period of time is shorter
60.
than one would like it to.
So I'm going to close with just one question. If we gave everybody antibiotics all the time, wouldn't we somewhat reduce infection while in fact making otherwise bad decisions that anybody in the antibiotic business would say don't overprescribe? Is that fair to say, doctors?
That's not the same thing.
Thank
You're
you.
comparing two different
Gentleman
things.
yields back, and I'll recognize the
Comparing
ranking member of
two
the full
different
committee for
things.
5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Pavia, can you recount for us what your experience was like in
The
early
prize is good
2021
company
and the impact you
and
saw at the
hopefully a
ground level
couple
of increased
laughs.
vaccine availability
Probably
in the face
thanks
of the
to
raging
chat.
pandemic?
It was an incredibly difficult time, Mr. Nadler. People were dying. People were scared. People were scared to go to work. The presence of the vaccine greatly helped with that. I had friends who worked as ICU nurses who saw people who were getting intubated who said, I wish I hadn't believed what I read on Facebook and had gotten the vaccine. So vaccine concerns were very understandable, and it's a human reaction to question them. But for many people, it proved to be a fatal decision.
Dr. Pavia, if I said to you that as of this week, COVID-19 has directly led to the death of over 7 million people worldwide, including 1.1 million Americans, would that sound right to you?
Those are the figures that have been calculated very carefully.
In dealing with an infectious disease like COVID-19, what are our best options for controlling the spread of the disease among the public and to our friends and family?
Well, we have a number of tools. None of them are perfect by themselves, so we use a layered defense. Vaccines prevent us from getting seriously ill and provide some protection against infection, particularly when we keep up with vaccines for the changing virus, avoiding going out when you're sick, wearing a mask when you're around vulnerable people. These are all the layers we have to use to try and control this disease.
You're saying that vaccines don't necessarily prevent you from getting the disease, but they do greatly reduce the seriousness of it if you get it.
So 2 things. One is they do reduce your risk of getting infected, but it's far from perfect. So after about 6 months, you have about a 30 to 50% reduced risk of getting infected. That's significant, but it's not great. But they have a much higher efficacy for protecting you from being hospitalized or dying.
So do you agree that vaccinating the public to slow and prevent the disease from spreading
This
is
is
a critical
because,
public health
Cam, it's
Absolutely.
called by Republicans.
Dr. Pavia,
These hearings
I hear
are
often from my
controlled by the
constituents about the
Republican
fear
majority
they
in the
experience
House.
caring for young child
And
with
so, to
RSV
that
over the past
end,
2 winters.
they control
I know
the
that we must
agenda
ensure
of
that
all
the
of
most
the
vulnerable among
committees.
us, like the
And
elderly,
the
get their flu
Democrats are
vaccines
allowed
every
one
year.
witness
Can you talk about the recent uptick in vaccine hesitancy
on the
and how that
panel.
affects the cases you see
So,
every day
this
as an
is
infectious
by
disease
design
I'll use a
nonsense
slightly
topics
different example,
intended
Mr.
to
Nadler.
frustrate you.
There's an infection called
That's what they are.
influenza type B that those of us over about 60 remember
So,
that used to
it's by
cause
design.
life-threatening infections and meningitis
by
in
design.
about 20,000 children each year. And we virtually eliminated
That's why we
that
watch.
disease,
We
drove it down
watch
to
so
a
that
few
we
dozen
hear
cases
what they're
a year
saying, what
with
they're
vaccine.
doing,
With
and what they're
vaccine
pushing.
hesitancy, we're beginning to see small pockets.
It's
of
not
that
really the new checks and
really
balances. It's a
awful
lie.
disease popping
That's what
back
it
up.
is. It's
So far, they
lie
haven't
and
spread widely,
obfuscation for
and
their
we
own
really need to do
crimes.
everything we can to
That's
stop
what
that.
this is.
Now,
This
my
is
colleagues
red
across the aisle have
herrings.
accused
These are red
President
herring
Biden of
hearings.
pressuring the FDA.
Red
The truth is that
herrings. We're
President
going to call
Trump
them
is
red
one who called
herrings
FDA
now.
regulators part of
Like
the
red
deep
herrings,
state
but in
and
hearings,
wanted the
which actually
FDA
is
to have
great.
less
Thanks
rules
for
about
promoting
COVID
or
vaccine
inspiring that.
authorization so that he could
A lot
take
of
credit for
people
vaccines coming out
receive their
before
master's
election.
degree from the University
Luckily,
of
the
Rumble.
scientific experts in the
Exactly.
FDA's Office of Vaccines
While sitting on their
wouldn't
toilets.
compromise on American safety for Trump's political gain. Dr. Marion Gruber, the head of the Office of Vaccines at the time, told the committee that in her over a decade of work at the FDA, she had never before had an instance where a president commented on an FDA guidance document as Trump did. She testified, quote, "In Office of Vaccines, we were not willing to compromise any standards for safety and effectiveness in the interest of getting vaccine out even faster than we thought we could make them available," close quote. Dr. Krause, do you agree with Dr. Gruber's testimony that in 2020, the Office
That's
of
true.
Vaccines
That's
did not
interesting,
compromise the
Scott. I
standards
didn't
for
realize
authorizing
that.
COVID vaccines for
I think
emergency
that's such a
use?
good idea, though, anyway. I mean,
Thank you very
we've
much.
been masking in
ask
high
one other question
traffic
of
areas. My daughter mostly. I'm worse at it. Hi, Val. How are you? It's good to
couldn't go
see
to
you,
kindergarten.
love. How are
Wouldn't be
you?
admitted
I hope you're good.
unless you had certificates of vaccination on diphtheria, whooping cough, various other childhood diseases. Eventually, measles was added to that when we developed the vaccine for that. Do you think we should seriously enforce such a policy now, Dr. Krause?
For all vaccines?
Well, for childhood illness vaccines.
So I think for childhood illness vaccines that are highly contagious, it's very important to assure that the children who are going to school are not going to transmit those diseases to other children at school.
So it should be mandatory.
It should be mandatory in most cases, yes.
Dr. Pavia, same question.
I would agree that when a disease is highly transmissible and when not everyone can be protected by vaccines, having all children in school vaccinated is tremendous.
Just finally name some of
good
the
luck.
diseases you're talking about.
So measles, Haemophilus influenza.
Hey, GP,
whooping
you are the
cough, these
model.
highly
I'm telling
infectious
you.
diseases, varicella, and they used to cause
I
tremendous
mad respect.
impact on children.
I'm just-
Polio would be
I'm
another
lazy.
example. When you and I were growing up in New York,
Bobo
you
is not
couldn't go to the
lazy.
swimming pool because polio was
Thankfully.
spread and kids were ending up in iron lungs.
Thank you very much.
And
I
we
yield back.
test after big
The ranking member
events.
now, yield 5 minutes.
So
recognize the
he's
gentleman
working
from
it.
North
Yeah,
Carolina
he's
for
doing
5
good, and I
Thank you,
like
Mr.
his
Chairman.
suspenders.
Dr. Krause, before, I'm going to yield my time momentarily to the chairman, but you
No,
in
that's
response
okay.
to Representative Issa, you lost your train of thought on something. I saw you writing after. Did you have a point you wanted to make that you couldn't in isolation? You'd
I
like
use
to make
hand
now?
sanitizer everywhere, not
Only
sick
that,
once, and I'm
once a
compromised.
product
Muskie,
isn't
that's
licensed,
fantastic.
obviously following up on that product,
Blessings
once it
to
is
you.
licensed, the follow-up doesn't end
And
there.
I think that's
The
good
FDA and the
practice.
CDC
We
continue to
have
look
that
at that
everywhere too. It's a
and
good
continue
idea.
to comb through
I have
various
gotten
databases
COVID
to
once,
understand if there
but it
are
was
safety
very
problems.
mild,
And so I wasn't
and I
sure-
got
Mr.
Paxlovid,
Issa's
and
question
within
might have
12
implied that once it
hours,
was
I
licensed,
was symptom-free.
that
It was
stopped. And I just wanted to
crazy.
make sure the committee
It was
knew that
crazy.
These activities continue.
That's
It
a helpful
was
point. With that, I
amazing.
yield my time to the chairman.
I thank the gentleman from North Carolina. Dr. Krause, when you reviewed the Pfizer
I
submission
respect it
for
so much,
the
though. I
EUA
respect
or
the precautions
BLA,
and things. So
their
I try to read
studies,
the
did
room
their,
too. You know what I mean? I try to read the room in
trials, were they
terms of
geared
if
to
everyone
test
is
whether
masking
the
or more people are
vaccine
masking,
prevented
I do too, because I don't want to cause people
were
like anxiety either. You know what I'm
Does the
saying? It's not that
EUA,
big a
when you
deal.
issue an EUA, does
It's just
is
not
it
that big a
also
deal.
accompanied, or as part of that production, a list of things that the read?
No, that was not part of the FDA review or the fact sheet.
Did you
Okay,
see
it
in
just
the
should have
media
just come
that,
back.
there were at
It
least
should have just come
politicians
back.
making that claim?
I did see that in the media, yes.
It disconnected for a
I'd
second.
like to show a video that Pfizer produced. This was an ad.
Thank you for the heads
I
up.
believe it's for the boosters, maybe.
Sorry about that. It seemed to have dropped the stream for a moment.
You know that
that unwelcome guest everyone wishes would just leave already? That's COVID-19. That's why I got the new updated booster, designed to help protect against recent Omicron variants. Got it?
Okay, that's good. Given that they weren't.
That's an
this was
amazing ad.
EUA product.
Way to go,
Is
Martha.
there anything missing from this ad? Does that seem like a compliant ad to you?
Well, normally advertisements of products include some disclaimers, of course, in places you go for more information or a suggestion that one talk with one's physician and so forth. So it does seem like something is missing here.
I'm going to ask you, Mr. Siri, was the FDA, not
Aaron
Dr.
time.
Krause, but
Bye,
was Dr.
Muskie.
Marks
Have a good
aware
one.
of this
Have a great
video?
day.
And
Thank you. Hope to see you
his
tomorrow.
Not within Dr. Krause's subdivision, but within a
Oh, and
subdivision
Space
under
Tonight, Muskie.
Peter
Space
Marks.
Tonight with
Aren't
Jim
they
Stewartson is the
responsible for
host.
policing these things?
7
And did
o'clock
Dr.
Pacific,
Marks know
probably.
about this ad?
Absolutely. Our firm sent a letter to the FDA about this advertisement and others, including on Sesame Street, saying, pointing out that they do not comply with federal regulations and federal law because even
That's
the
a little
EUA
bit,
itself
little tiny bit.
issued for the
That's for
Pfizer
Muskie
COVID
leaving
vaccine
and
said
J
that
Rand's
any
coming
time
back.
The EUA product
And
was
everybody
gonna be
else.
promoted. There was a disclaimer that must
Andy
be
No
put
probably
on it
thinks
saying,
Antifa attacked your
this has
channel.
not
Bye,
been licensed
Muskie.
as safe and effective. But nonetheless, that disclaimer, you do not see it on that advertisement. And when we pointed out to the FDA, they did not do anything about it. Even worse, the CDC itself actually violated the rule by promoting the vaccine as safe and effective when it was EUA. And we wrote a letter to the FDA saying, can you going to enforce your rules against the CDC? And the
Make sure you
FDA
get your
never took
bingo
action.
cards.
Wasn't it the case that in 41 videos, Peter Marks himself, the person in charge of vaccine approval, was making claims that were not vetted by the FDA and, in fact, would have been illegal for the manufacturer to make, yet the regulatory agency
Oh, Scott, you left
was
too. I'm so
making those
sorry.
claims?
And I'm
If
not
you
aware
left,
of any
Scott,
exception
back
that
to
would
work.
have permitted
Okay,
the
bye,
FDA itself to
Scott.
violate
Bye.
the
That music was for you
regulation,
too.
Or I believe, or the United States Code in which it was
Tomorrow
that
night,
particular
SB, tomorrow
disclaimer is
night,
derived
Thursday
from.
night, about 5:30 Pacific,
Thank the gentleman from
8:30
North
Eastern.
Carolina, and I now recognize the gentleman from Georgia for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To me, it's pretty clear. The nation went through a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. 1.1 million people died. At the height of the pandemic, 3,000 plus individuals, people dying every day. Morgues full, overcapacity, refrigeration trucks being used to keep bodies such that they could be buried months later because the funeral home industry was paralyzed, as was our economy, and everyone was at home other than essential workers working remotely. Do y'all remember that? It was
Yeah, that's right,
months
Val.
that we went through that. And with people dying, I remember my mother, who's now 97, she'll be 98 in October. But I was doing everything I could, me and my wife, to make sure that we did not bring COVID home to her, for her to catch at the age that she was, being as predisposed to be, adversely. Today is because some folks
dang it.
have problems.
I'm coming back. Hold on.
They say that it
There
was
we are.
speeded up too
Sorry.
much.
I'm so sorry. I'm watching it and it kind of drops.
Lost their lives.
It's not giving me a warning. Here we go.
They were adversely affected by the vaccine.
What's going on here?
So I don't have a number for that.
Do you have a number, Dr. Vaughn?
I do not.
How about you, Mr. Siri.
Sorry, everyone.
Well, what I can
Apologize
tell you
for the
is-
tech
You don't have a number for it,
difficulties.
do you?
Well, if you,
I'll
I
have to
can tell you
troubleshoot that
sources
after
you
the
can
show.
look to.
Well, I don't want to.
Sorry about
I
that.
want to know if you know, because you all are here as witnesses
You
against
remember
process
TFG did
that
the same
led
drug
to
test
the
nonsense with HRC. Yes, I remember that. Remember they were claiming that she was so sick and everything. Remember that?
about
All the big
motives
lies.
of those who wanted this meeting to take place, because there is a vaccine
this.
skepticism out there. There are vaccine skeptics, conspiracy theorists among the MAGA crowd.
Fake doctors.
And it's spilling over into innocent parents with children who are now suspicious about mandates to have their children vaccinated before they can go to school. And it's really hurting our public health, isn't it, Dr. Villa?
Yes, sir, it is.
And folks are making money off of it, Mr. Siri. Even your firm, I mean, a Texas-based group that campaigns against vaccine requirements.
What did I do?
One of your major clients, they paid you all $3 million in 2021, and you're here to testify. You're on the clock right now, aren't you?
And I'm not on the clock for this hearing, but yes, one of our clients is, I believe, but on your question.
But let me move forward. Dr. Krause, it would be inaccurate, sir, to say that you quit your job at the FDA after 30 years and you were the top guy, or actually the deputy director, and you quit because of the process that led to the speedy rollout of the vaccine. It would be inappropriate for a member of Congress to insinuate that, would it not?
I'm
Because
badass.
actually, after 30 distinguished years in that role of deputy director, that was during a time when a new director was being sought, and your hat was in the ring, but unfortunately, you got passed over for it, and you left after that. That's the reason why you...
No, that's not true.
Certified
There
badass.
was no search. Dr. Gruber and I resigned on essentially the same day.
And Dr. Caslow became the director.
Really? Metallica? That's too bad. Oh,
And
sorry.
you didn't have anything
Forgot.
to do with the approval process.
I know.
Of, the vaccine.
No one has to actually
No, I did contribute to that.
look for porn
let's be
anymore.
clear.
It just comes
So
up
the
in your
the
replies
original
now.
Authorization under EUA.
You didn't. The final approval took place months after you left the job, correct?
No, that's not true either. Maybe I can just
Well, I
refresh you
stand-
on the
I stand
chronology.
corrected.
The gentleman
I'll
from
take your
Georgia's
word
time
for
is expired, but the witness may provide an answer.
So the emergency use authorizations occurred in December 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and this was an all-hands-on-deck effort, and I made major contributions to the policy and the review work and everything that happened at the FDA that brought the vaccines to us.
Yep.
We then
And then
also
what?
had the question about the licensure of the vaccine,
And then
in
what?
particular of the Pfizer vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
And that occurred
Mhm.
in August of 2021.
Okay.
And I was still at the FDA at that point.
Okay.
And that was the episode that Mr. Massey was talking about.
And then what
I
happened?
left the FDA in
Okay.
November of 2021.
Why is your hand
After,
like
at the
fidgety?
end of August, or at the end of September,
Oh,
it was the end
no.
of August.
Right. Yep.
August,
But
telling my supervisor that I was
Okay.
leaving.
Let's let the witness answer. The time has expired. Let's let him answer.
Oh, boy.
But you didn't leave because of the way that the vaccine was rolled out, the certification and approval. Correct?
So the things that were happening at the FDA at the time did in fact influence me to leave at the time that I did.
Did it really?
May I
Is that
correct
what
you?
you were told to say?
The,
Okay.
recognize the gentleman
Alright.
from Ohio for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page 1, second paragraph, Dr. Pavia
got the
says this: the spread of
Jimmy
misinformation,
Jordan
disinformation is weakening vaccine confidence. I would agree. And I would
All right,
argue
we're
that the
doing a
biggest
Jimmy
cause of
Jordan's blues. Okay,
is the government.
850 for front brakes.
Mr. Siri, would you agree that the
No, but then we
biggest
can get to
reason
higher
for vaccine
elevations.
hesitancy is
I'm
because
still
of
in
what
the
the United States government told
frigging
us
heat
about
in Colorado.
COVID
Oh
and about the vaccine
man.
itself?
Absolutely.
Good luck,
I would
Val.
absolutely agree with that.
It's time to do a
I
valathon.
think that
You know what I
when you
mean?
listen to a lot of the statements made about
Yes,
vaccines,
the
when you
turfs are getting
express benefits
de-turfed.
that clearly don't exist, that are easily disproven, that causes vaccine hesitancy. When you say
I
over and
got
over
the
it can stop transmission, when the actual studies show it doesn't. The studies by the CDC themselves, when they found more nasopharynx in the vaccinated, viral carriage in the vaccinated, in their nasopharynx versus the unvaccinated, and more rates. Please.
Totally agree. Dr. Vaughn, would you agree?
To express
think,
my
again,
dismay.
they were told one thing, and then we're fairly, most people, once the
Even
opposite
Matt
happens,
Gates won't return
usually
my
start to question
call.
Exactly. And why do you think?
Although I text
Let me ask it this way, Doctor. We had someone earlier say that. I think Dr. Pappy said this. He said the way it should be determined is patients and their doctors should decide how this works. But this thing got so political that you couldn't even do that, could you? You treated, I think you said 2,000 patients in your practice. Someone just asked you a number. How many people took the vaccine and died? And you said, I can't give you a number. But you gave 6 examples of people who had huge complications in your written testimony. Tell me about that relationship and how politics played into the relationship that's supposed to exist between the doctor and their patient.
Yeah, I think the biggest trust was lost when they were mandated to get something against their conscience. And I think that is one of the things that needs to be, especially when you talk about a physician that knows his patient. There are certain patients that don't need to have their immune system, in a sense, poked. And I think most physicians would agree with that.
Mr.
But that knowledge is what a physician and their patient have in the relationship that exists.
One of
it's not something that is found in a
has
parking lot when you
to
roll down your window.
Did you ever feel pressure from
hearing
pressure from any government entity, certifying board or whatever, in the way you were treating your patients?
I try.
I did not. Interestingly enough, I got some other physicians decided that when I was saying that the vaccine did not
Isn't
necessarily
it true? I
I
scream.
went down
Although I know
had a
it's a
discussion,
lie.
but at that time it was proven that I was correct. If that makes sense, it was.
I got
at that
the
time.
Some of
Jimmy
your
Jordan
colleagues tattletale on you.
Yeah, people I had never met, other physicians.
I gotta
the other thing was,
you that
again, this is my 5-year-old. Who basically
Sitting in front of the board and you happen to be
I'm
right.
no longer beavers to
going to
his, but
kindergarten, I spoke in front of the board
hey,
about masking my kindergarten.
he's
Again, my
being
wife being a
body
speech
shamed by
pathologist,
Ginger
masking children for 18 months didn't really help with their speech development, their ability
I
to talk.
got
And I
those
also was turned in for that as
Jimmy
well.
Jordan.
Again, I asked the Attorney General of our state if I had given up my free speech when I became a physician. He told me I had not, but evidently that is not true.
Yeah, I mean, the cause of vaccine hesitancy, the reason this got so political, in my judgment, is because our government told us time and time
That's
again
it.
things that were not accurate.
Jimmy Jordan blues.
They told us
That is the Jimmy Jordan
They told us 6
blues.
foot social distancing, which meant
That
we had
wasn't
to
too
close
bad,
schools
actually.
and shut down
I could
businesses
probably
and
do
restaurants.
something
They
with
told us
that.
that was based on science. They told us the
That's
vaccinated
kind of what I
couldn't
want to
get it. They
do
told
for
us the
my
vaccinated
comedy
couldn't
routine
transmit it.
is
They told
something
us it
like
wasn't
that, like interspersed in
They
the
told us all kinds of
jokes.
things
You know
that
what
weren't
I'm
true about where
saying?
this
If
thing
it's
came from
funny.
the
I mean,
lab.
if the
And then
audience is
maybe
into
the biggest one,
politics,
first
you
virus
know,
in human
which I don't
history where
know.
there's no
I'll
natural
probably
immunity.
flop.
Is that true, Dr. Vaughn? Is there natural immunity for this virus like
I
every other
got
virus?
those
I will tell
Jimmy
you,
Jordan
again, I was early in actually having basically
God, that was really. I really like that. I'm sorry. I mean, I could sing better, that's for sure, but still, I like that.
And up until Omicron,
Science is a
the
moving target.
reinfection rate among
I'm
my,
sorry. Nobody
people that
in
were
the U.S. was
seropositive
forcibly
was
vaxxed. That's
basically
right.
zero.
Yeah. Oh no, we couldn't.
I
have
know.
that. You got anything
Doesn't
to add?
Colorado has
Well, let
a
me just say this,
Democrat
and I'll
lawyer
let you
or
finish,
lawyer?
Mr. Siri.
Probably.
Kamala
Governor,
Harris said
a governor,
in
right?
2020,
I
before
don't
she
know what
was
the
vice
fuck I'm talking
president,
about.
that she would not trust any vaccine under development in the
Do,
Trump
do, do, do,
administration.
do.
A few months later, they were trying to
A
speed up
heat
the
wave is
process
40
to mandate
degrees
the very
Celsius
vaccines
in
she said she
Australia.
wouldn't
I've
trust
forgotten your
because it
system,
was
though. I
all
gather it's
based
hot.
on
Well,
politics.
it's about.
Mr. Siri,
So what is
I'll
it?
give you the last word.
40 plus 32
I'll go back to what Mr. Johnson
is
said,
what
who
it's
seemed
equivalent
very concerned
to.
about financial
No.
interests being able
No.
to influence, and I
It's something
certainly
else.
agree with that.
Plus 30 or something.
Billions of dollars were on the
Why
line
don't they
for
just
these
say plus
pharmaceutical
62?
companies, and that
Anyway.
really affected the way these
Trump
vaccines
campaign
were rolled
hosts
out. That's
Black
a
American
financial
businesses at
conflict of interest,
barbershop. Oh,
especially when they
Lord.
didn't have to pay for any
What is
injuries, and they
that?
knew
What
it
are they up to now?
beforehand because the federal government contractually agreed PrEP Act immunity applied to every single vaccine
Crazy.
that was rolled out. It's in this submission. The
After this is
citations to all
over, I
those
want to read this New Republic piece that Gal shared with
Thank
us.
you, Chairman. Now recognize the gentlelady
Then we can also,
from
we could always
Washington
go
State.
to the little
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I came to
video.
Congress, not many people know this, but I spent a decade working on international
Kinda
public
glad
health
the
and
dog hasn't
development all
woken
over the
up
world.
yet.
And as a child growing up in India and Indonesia, I got every single vaccine possible, and I really believe I would have died without those vaccines. I believe vaccines save lives. I think that's the science and the research of it. And the effect of vaccines on disease worldwide has been game-changing. And I just take a look at polio. From the late 19th to early 20th centuries, the disease was a threat to children worldwide. In fact, my sister-in-law was one of they were called the polio pioneers, the first 50 children who got the vaccine. She had already contracted polio, but she was part of Dr. Salk's trial. And despite the start of regular immunizations in the 1970s, polio still impacted over 1,000 children a day in the late 1980s. Thanks to the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, most countries have 0 cases. Polio is only endemic in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and as recently as 2020, Nigeria was recognized as being free of wild polio virus. Unfortunately, there has been a lot of disinformation on vaccines, and as that's ramped up, we've seen reversals
I'm understanding,
in our progress
Max.
coinciding
That's
with the
interesting.
pandemic and interruptions in routine immunizations. But it's important
I've been there once, and I almost got killed driving through an intersection in the middle of the night when it was snowing.
COVID-19 vaccine.
I
Listen,
am.
it's no
I
secret that I'm not a
didn't.
big
Well,
fan
I
of
did
big
actually
pharma.
ascend
And so
one
anytime
cult member
my
yesterday,
colleagues
and
on
I
the other side
married
of the
another
aisle
one
wanna help
because
me
they
rein
asked
in
me
big
to.
says about the efficacy
Come
of the COVID
back.
vaccine. I don't think, I think maybe
Oh my
people wanted
God.
to
There
hear
we
that
go.
would
Sorry,
completely
everyone.
protect you.
Jiminy
I know
crickets.
when
I don't know what's
I got
happening.
COVID
It just
before
keeps
the vaccine, I
dropping.
got COVID after the vaccine. I was never under any
Maybe the
illusion
little
that it was gonna
gremlins are
be 100%
playing.
effective, but that it would help prevent contracting it, and then if I did contract
Hi,
it, that the
Scott.
symptoms
Welcome
would be less. But
back.
tell me what you
Yes,
what you know, what the
Representative
science says about the
Jayapal.
efficacy.
She works.
Science,
I mean,
as you
I'm
know,
gonna.
evolves.
I
And what
like
we
her.
know about
I may
the
not agree with
vaccines
everything
and what
she
we know about
says,
the
but I
virus and
really
the virus
like her.
itself
I think
has
her
changed
heart
a
is
great
certainly
deal
in the right
over the last
place.
4 years.
I don't
When
know.
the vaccine was first studied,
Sorry about
when
the
it was a
stream
perfect match
dropping.
to
I'm
the
not
virus
sure
that
what's
was
happening. I'll
circulating,
try and
it was
troubleshoot it after the
95% effective at preventing
fact.
any infection. But
But I am
dropped
sorry about
the longer
that.
you were out from the vaccine and the more the virus changed
wonder-
over time. It is still highly effective if you get the updated vaccines that are better, but not perfect.
Get your
match for the
boosters.
current viruses
Please get your
at preventing
boosters.
severe disease and hospitalization.
Check with your doctor,
It
but
does
get your
reduce
boosters.
chances of getting infected,
Can't
but
recall
it
the
does
little
not
hippie town where I found
completely prevent it.
dispensary,
And I
but
think
what
willfully people
later
are saying,
local family
"Stop
told me about
transmission,"
all the
when
witchcraft and
it doesn't
Satanism
stop
there
it entirely,
in that
but
little
it does
hippie
decrease it
suburb of
because
Colorado
people are not
Springs. That's
infected
kind
and
of
cannot
cool.
transmit.
That's
Talk
kind of
about
cool.
long COVID because it is
Local
a
family,
real
Christofash
issue.
adjacent at best. Oh,
It
well.
continues to impact millions of Americans.
Happens.
Dr. Pavia, I've read that one of the risk factors for developing long-term COVID is not being adequately vaccinated. Can you discuss why that's a risk factor?
Well, I'm not sure we have all of the scientific answers yet, but
All right,
it's
on
pretty clear
BRB.
from
Hold on.
observational studies and many overlapping studies that essentially show the same thing, that being vaccinated reduces your chance of long COVID, even if you have a breakthrough infection. It probably is because
What is
it
going
prevents
on?
virus from establishing reservoirs in different parts of the body and leading to permanent damage. But
What other things are exempt that we put in our body from liability?
I'm not aware of any other consumer product that has the liability protection that vaccines are provided. You can sue drug manufacturers for drugs. That's why drugs come off the market all the time. That's why every consumer product in this room and that you experience every day is safer. It's because those companies face economic harm. They have to pay if they injure people.
And that's how the system was set up. Our system of law toward laws, supposed to not regulations that have selective enforcement.
Yes.
Or whoever gives the bigger contribution might not be enforced, or not